from Burns, a spin for DJ. His footwork's incredible.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Gritty three. Rebound picked up by Newton. 16 straight misses. Collen inside. The dunk, the foul. Count it. And he hung on the rim for safety.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Here's Edey with 5 on the shot clock. Edey inside. Oh, what a move by Edey. That's what you call a great up and under.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Under 2 minutes to go. Sears guarded by Hunter. Sears lets it fly and knocks it down. Mark Sears.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Nice and easy. Burns, like it's rock. Burns, another for DJ Burns.
You're not going to play horse with him, I'll tell you that.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Rylan Griffin in traffic. Oh, nice pass. Finds Sears. Excellent ball movement there.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. It's the Final Four in men's basketball is set. One, even though it is an Autonomy 4 school, is one hell of a Cinderella like they were back in 1983 with head coach Jim Valvano when they slayed unbeaten Phi Slamma Jamma with Akeem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler and others. Good afternoon, David Smoak with Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. Garrett Ross runs the mothership. This is 365 Sports. How many of you have been on Twitter or elsewhere hit with April Fools? Anyone bite on something you shouldn't have bitten on?
No, because I woke up this morning and the first tweet I saw was, literally on April Fool's Day, the first thing I saw was one of those like nonsensical things where it's like somebody's trying way too hard here. But I can see if I had not realized what it was and I'd seen, hey, DJ Burns is this and like just normal stuff, I probably could have been lulled into it.
Yeah, no, I saw Dane Danger hit the transfer portal, and I was like, is that, we're going to have some transfer portal jokes? No, that turned out to be real, but no, I realized what day it was last night, and so I just kind of already told myself, like, oh, yeah, tomorrow's April Fool's, so just anything you see, just double-check it. So, no, I wasn't fooled by anything, and I don't think I've really come across anything all that creative that would have really led me down that path of being fooled. So, haven't spent much time on social media other than a glance here and there, so haven't come across anything.
Garrett, did I get it? I got nailed right with Aiden Child transferring. I got that one. I sent that to you. I thank God that you were paying attention.
Thank you.
Because, really, even something, and there was another one that I think it's a talk show host that is in West Virginia, mentioned that West Virginia Penn State's opening game, which is a Saturday the 31st, we're going to play Thursday night, 7 o'clock Central on ABC, which that was like not even one to like, I was like, oh, so I sent Tony Caridi and our buddy Jed Drenning of West Virginia Radio. I said, is this real? They went, one guy won't tell you the response he said to who put it out there. But I almost got bit on that one, too.
We're not far away from having to take away your social media. There's going to come a point where, I don't know, we're too worried about you getting duped. But, those are the best ones, are the ones that aren't obvious. That's why they work.
I worry about my mother and AI literally every day.
Using AI?
No, like the AI scams where like people call up and they can because here's the thing. For the three of us, it's very easy to take our voices, which are out there 300 days a year about, and take our voices, run it through an AI filter, and then tell the AI filter to be like, hey, Mom, I need $720,000. And then my mother, being 75 years old, calling up and going, hey, why do you need this? And so I've had to tell her, like, look, we have, like, just don't think I'm going to call you and say that. There's other things, but it'd be very easy to scam. I don't want to have to put you in that category, but I will if I have to.
Yeah,
so wait a minute.
That is going to get scary.
You would ask for, so she would think you would ask
because
for
like what happens is they'll record. They'll find a video. Like all they need is a couple seconds of a video. So like say you have a video on your social media that's like,
okay,
hey, this is us in Hawaii 2020. Well, probably not in 2020, but hey, look at this. This is the Smoak family. All right. And then they take that little clip and the artificial intelligence copies the voice and gets it really close.
That's crazy.
And then it would be, you'd be sitting on the phone and then a number of calls that you don't recognize, but they leave a message and it's like, hey, Dad, it's Craig. I need this. And then you're like, oh my God, Craig's in trouble. And so you got to go help Craig. But
I'm at
also
that age.
for you,
yes,
Craig's going to be like, I'm not going to bother.
Yeah.
You're like,
not to mention,
Craig.
I get slammed and I just throw it away. I shred it. I have a shredder with anything insurance or anything Social Security or anything Medicare, all that, because I've already had that taken care of, and I get phone calls on that now, even though I have RoboKiller. All right, the Final Four is set. Every team in it, there's a great story. UConn rolling through this tournament. Alabama, high-octane offense that will put up 45 or 53s probably and try to then, if they hit enough of them, who knows? Then there is, of course, the Cinderella right now with DJ Burns and company. NC State with their win against Duke, and then Purdue with Zach Edey, Rob Painter, their head coach. Those are the four left. Those are the four games. UConn, Alabama. Rob Dauster for the Field of 68 will join us. Leave that up, Garrett, if you don't mind, and then we'll get to some details of each team. How much fun is watching, and I know that if you're a Duke fan, you surely aren't happy, but the story about DJ Burns and then the run that the Wolfpack are on.
It's awesome. It's great that an 11 seed made it. It's great that an 11 seed made it when they had to win their conference tournament to get into the thing, and they're now in the Final Four. It's great that they beat a blue blood along the way. It's great that they beat a blue blood that's a conference rival along the way. It's also great that we get to see DJ Burns, who I'm going to call the beefy ballerina until it sticks.
I like it.
Against Zach Edey.
Make sure you
and get a
copyright
good old school. I mean, look, Zach Edey's 5 inches taller than DJ Burns, but I do think he's going to give him some problems in a way that nobody else in this tournament has before. And should UConn continue to win, and I'm not discounting Alabama and Nate Oates here because he is an excellent coach and is probably going to do this a few more times in his career. But if UConn does go through, no matter what, we're going to get a great big on big where it's Klingen against either Edey or Klingen against DJ Burns in the final.
I thought the ACC already won the national championship based on the reactions over the first couple of weeks, of which they had every right to feel like they were the bells of the ball with the number of teams they had advanced, especially as we talked about at length, the comments from coaches as the postseason started up that, they were getting disrespected, that they should have had more teams in. I think they've proven that in this tournament. But, now down to the one. So, my point being for all of that talk, if North Carolina State doesn't go and win it, does it really matter? How many teams advanced and did that? Because I feel like
I just think that's what you could always – if your conference is having a good run in the tournament or bowl games, you want to use it, but that doesn't always prove anything. But the Big 12, of course, have their problem.
We're going to get to them, and we're going to dog on them as deservedly so for their performances. But no, I'm playing around in that you would have thought that the ACC had the Final Four based on the reactions, of which they had every right to bump their chest and talk a little S and feel like they were the best league in the country. But to think that it's only down to NC State at this point, and NC State's an 11 seed is just kind of wild. So if they were to pull off the last part of this and go beat Purdue and go beat either Alabama and UConn, I mean, they would leave no doubts about who the best league in the country was, and they maybe haven't already, but NC State's a great story. They've been a lot of fun to watch. I'd love to see them go hoist the trophy at the end of this thing. UConn's obviously the buzzsaw that people feel like is as close to unbeatable now. But Alabama's super athletic and super talented. That's going to be a hell of a matchup.
They don't care what the hell anyone else thinks. They're going to fire it away.
Yeah, UConn Alabama is going to be incredible. And then, Purdue, obviously. I mean, the Zach Edey show, I know that's not everybody's cup of tea, but they've got a really good, solid squad as well. So them and NC State ought to be interesting. And, it's not the Final Four that I think a lot of people had pegged due mostly to NC State, but it's a mix where you got 4 different leagues represented. You've got all these different stories with each one in tow, and a little personality for each team that you can kind of identify them from one another. So I think it's a fun group and should make for a great Final Four.
Carla Jenkins, who put a note to us up on Twitter about NC State and trying to compare it to what the Big 12 maybe needs to do going forward with football, et cetera. We'll get to that in just there. It is a snippet on how NC State has given the ACC a viable path forward while making us forget FSU and Clemson are leaving or is leaving. The Big 12 can take a page from this if it has good teams. Thanks, Collen. You're on the chat room, too. And by the way, the ACC did have 3 of the top 8 make it to the Elite 8 before eventually somebody had to eliminate because of Duke.
My point is that the bragging rights go to the national champion at the end of the day. Like all this league stuff, I feel like is bigger than it's ever been because of realignment. I've poked at this how many times now? I've poked it like kind of how I don't love the constant league smack talk because we made fun of the SEC for it all these years, and now everybody's doing it, basically. Everybody's, like, waving the banner, which is cool, and especially, for us when we cover a lot of the Big 12 and all that. But I'm just saying that there was a lot of smack talk, so now I feel like NC State needs to go and close the job to really slam the door. But no doubt they have every right to feel the way that they felt about the league and where it's sat and its disrespect and all of that. I feel like the ACC's got every reason to feel good. But to his point, I mean, there is life without blue bloods, believe it or not. You may not get everything that you want. You may not get the easiest path, but there are teams out there that can still go and compete at a high level and go win championships so long as they're given the opportunity. And I think that's the thing above all else is it's not the money gap and it's not all these kind of petty things sometimes get pointed out about how you can't keep up. It's about having the opportunity. That's all it is. You have the opportunity. NC State had the opportunity as an 11 seed. Not a lot of people would have thought they would have gotten to this point, but without a whole lot of advantages, here they are. And here they are ready to make possibly an even bigger mark and make the biggest mark possible. And I think to want to live in a world where that's not a possibility anymore would kind of suck. So congrats to the Wolfpack on making the most. And, the ACC's got plenty of options ahead of them no matter what happens with Florida State and Clemson, although there's a lot of doors that we don't know quite what's behind all of them, but the idea that they would just falter is not necessarily the reality.
By the way, Alabama was in a slide before they reached the SEC tournament, and even then, of course, into the tournament, they were kind of on fumes, and they got hot, too, at the end, and obviously very explosive. Here are some nuggets on the teams in the Final Four. Alabama, their first ever appearance. Purdue, first time since 1980. They have had teams. Last year they lost to a 16 seed, and they've had others that were really good. Gene Katie, over and over again, they were always like they were the team that you kind of, NC State, since the great Jimmy Valvano, beating Houston. And by the way, you're right, Kyle Visser, I mentioned unbeaten. I thought they were. I always thought they were. They were 31 or 33-3 that year, whatever the record was. But they were high-flying, and they were great. But NC State got them in the last-second tip-in. UConn, then, is the difference here. 7th appearance in the last 25 years. Trying to win their 6th national title. And they're forcing themselves. They're already a blue blood in my mind when it comes to basketball. Their women, of course, we know are. And now trying to win 6 and their 7th appearance in 25 years. That is incredible. What a run.
Yeah, the only reason that people forgot that UConn was a blue blood because they were a new blue blood was because they had gaps between it. But people, it's hard to do. It's especially hard to do what they've done. I think it's cool that NC State's in this because they're the team that I equate with of launching the modern March Madness. I think that team that beat Phi Slamma Jamma, Jim Valvano.
Oh no,
that's what made
Indiana State's run with Larry Bird in '79.
Yeah, so like
kind of
those
woke people up too.
But yeah, Indiana State, like Magic and Bird, and then that in '83. Those things kind of made March what it is now. Like that's what started. Yeah. That's what started it.
Plus, you had incredible names too. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
absolutely.
I get it. Lowest seeds to ever make the Final Four. NC State, of course, is right now an 11 seed. I remember Dale Brown on LSU. Not surprised if Dale Brown, that game, Tim Brando was not in attendance. George Mason made their run, another 11 seed. VCU was Shaka, Loyola Chicago, UCLA. 11 seeds that have made it to the Final Four. NC State has a chance to make history in Phoenix. None of the previous 11 seeds made it to the national championship game. It's hard, but they have that chance to do so on Saturday night.
Yeah, and if they do, that'd be pretty cool. Obviously we'll have to wait a few days to see what comes in the next chapter of this story, but it's been a great little Cinderella ride. I saw plenty of folks pointing out how close they were to not even being involved. I mean, if not for miraculous shooting, in the conference tournament. And that was, little did we know at the time, a much bigger thing than it was seemingly at the time of just, that's going to get them in the dance. And little did we know that all they needed was the invite to go and make a whole lot of noise and to turn the whole thing potentially on its head. But, that was a really impressive win over Duke. And, somebody's got to lose there when it came to the ACC, which is unfortunate for the league, hoping to, really go even crazier than they already had with the number of representatives still standing at the end of the day. But that's the way it worked out. And, I mean, what a game that was. And it's just they're fun to watch, man. DJ Burns is, the name that everybody now knows in March and has enjoyed, I think, watching. I've seen a lot of people talking about him and just them in general. So let's see if they can finish the story, a la Cody Rhodes, all in the same month of April is, for those who know, very fitting. But, yeah, let's see if they can finish the story. It's going to be easier said than done, but it's been a great one so far.
He is a big man with incredible touch. I text Matt Rohrer, who used to be a college basketball coach back in the day, now is one of the administrators at Baylor, Scott and White, Hillcrest. He said he's got unbelievable nimble feet, too, but an incredible touch. Here is where he has been. Tennessee is where he started his collegiate career. Winthrop for 3 years, then NC State. He's always, except the redshirt year. And when he was a freshman at Tennessee, he was kind of tall and lean. Now he is what did you call him?
The beefy ballerina.
And averaging 10, 11, 12, 15 points per game. What a story. And again, another player who's taken care of that, taken advantage of the transfer portal, was really good at Winthrop, and now on stage with NC State.
Well, and look, Winthrop is a place where he discovered his game, and of course, meatball subs, which I can get behind. No, he's so much fun to watch, and because he is so nimble, but again, he'll back you down, and those moves that he had, and really, really befuddled Duke in the second half. And Kyle Filipowski fouled out. Now, I thought that we were going to see that thing where one of Duke's best players gets their fourth foul and then, kind of just goes on to the rest of the game and everything's questionable. And they got a Duke call. They certainly did. They got a call late in the game that should have been Kyle Filipowski's fifth foul, and they called it NC State. And then he got his fifth foul. But, yeah, Duke played really frustrated yesterday in the second half. It's like they couldn't figure out why things weren't going their way. And part of that, and I think it was a huge advantage for NC State to play a team that they're familiar with, is I don't think that Duke felt it because they'd seen NC State in their previous form of being a team that was very much in the middle of the pack in the ACC until the tournament and probably didn't respect them enough.
Well, here's a note, and I want to get to that. We have a lot of other nuggets to get to. Nikki Collen, Baylor women's coach, will join us at 4 on many things women's basketball, but also Rob Dauster in a minute. And the voice of NC State, who's trying to retire, but is sure as hell enjoying his long extended vacation trip beforehand with NC State basketball, will join us today. And we have a writer who covers Purdue near the end of the show. Here's the run. Here is the run. Louisville, Syracuse, Duke, Virginia, and then North Carolina to win it all. I mean, they've beaten Duke twice on this 9-game streak. Opened up with a Texas Tech and McCaslin, won by 13. They played Oakland, who had just beaten Kentucky, beat a 2-seed Marquette, and then took on Duke, who had beaten Houston, which was a really tough ending for Houston with Jamal Shedd going down with the ankle injury. That has not, and there's nothing about it that's a fluke about their run to get to where they are today.
No, and I'm glad that for their sake that it wasn't them beating Houston with an injured Jamal Shedd, because then I do think there'd be a little bit of a, and so there's not that, because Duke was the team that beat Houston. I know we'll get to Houston in the Big 12 here in a few, but yeah, I mean, there's nothing to say but go and finish the story and, cap this off. But as far as, I guess if they had any doubters or haters or whatever, I mean, here they are, the proof's in the pudding, and they've gone on an incredible run this last month and made a lot of waves, and it's been incredible to watch. But yeah, there's nothing fluky about it at this point. You don't go and win that many games in the conference tournament, and then the big dance the way that they have with just a little bit of luck on your side. You've got a good team to a great team, and they're showing that, and they're flexing their muscles, and to go and beat Duke and to be among the Final Four with an 11 hanging next to your name is something we usually reserve for schools that not many people even know exist half the time. Not an NC State, right? It's not usually a Power 4, Power 5 school necessarily. I always think of the George Masons or just somebody like that along those lines. But here they are, and now a mighty task in front of them, but that's not going to scare them or intimidate them, as we've seen all too well these last few weeks.
So one of the things about NC State, and I saw a note, I think it's me versus Echo Chamber, Carla Jenkins as well, NC State, had they not won the ACC tournament, they wouldn't be here.
Right. Virginia
misses a free throw. That sews that game up, and then they bank one in, as you mentioned, off the board, and they get there. But that's, they wouldn't have made it, and they didn't have the resume to make it. So that's what's great about the tournaments, the conference tournaments, and about the opportunity. You have a door that's cracked. Break it down, take advantage of it, and they have absolutely been able to do that.
Yeah, 3 at the buzzer to go to overtime. Well, otherwise you're not where you are. So that win over Virginia in overtime, bank shot at the buzzer was the play that you're going to see a lot of, I would think, over the coming days. And certainly when this story is told years down the line, that's going to be front and center of like, how'd this all start? And that's going to be a big part of it. So yeah, took a little bit of luck, I guess you could say, to get in the spot, but nothing lucky about what they've done with that opportunity.
Absolutely. All right. We will have Rob Dauster from the Field of 68. We'll have Nikki Collen again at 4. Plus, we'll look at the women's regionals tonight. Also, there's some news. Got to get into that Rashee Rice story with SMU, with the Kansas City Chiefs, and what's going on with that as well. And then also we will have Brian Newbert, who covers Purdue, the voice of NC State. All of that still to come today on this show. Now, before we break, and Carla Jenkins, you brought this up on the story about NC State carrying the ACC banner, and there were others, but they're the ones doing it. Be better than maybe the flagship teams, or however you want to call the Blue Bloods, whether Clemson or Florida State, Carolina, Duke, when it comes to basketball. And they're doing that, and the Big 12 needs to do that. And yet, Iowa State could not get it done. Illinois got them. And yet, University of Houston, injury or not, Duke got it done. I thought L.J. Cryer had a couple of bad moments with turnovers in the second half at critical times, but again, he had one hell of a year. This is when the Big 12 has to find a way, no matter the circumstances, and they did not, no matter how good they were during the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk all the noise about being the best team in the country, which they did,
best conference in the country, yeah.
The best league in the country, best conference in the country, then you got to go out and prove it. There's talking the talk and there's walking the walk, and the Big 12's done both lately. You've had a couple of recent national champions, but if you want to be like the SEC of men's basketball or something along those lines. The SEC is not the SEC because they've got the biggest brands per se. Their perception and their power and all of that, some of that is historic. Some of that is just having a bunch of big schools. But a whole lot of it is that they won a bunch of national titles over the last 20 years. That's a big, if not 90% chunk of all that propaganda that we hear at times is because of that. There's actually backing to it. And so If you're the Big 12, you've been able to do that recently, but in this case, ACC's got every right to feel like they're the best league based on the results and what we've seen in March. And I know there can still be some debate on that, but that's what I'm saying about NC State is what you did in the tournament is great if you want to do like ACC, and you still do have bragging rights to some extent. But if they don't go win the title, then who cares about what you did in the tournament if your team doesn't go or team from your league doesn't go win it all?
It's a chapter, but not the story.
That's all great, but that's what I was saying earlier about like all the talk of like you would have thought they'd already won the title. That's the cherry. That's what everybody's going to talk about down the line is who won the championship, and that's why the SEC can talk the way that they talk and act the way that they act. And so the Big 12 has like shown that they want to be able to do that on the basketball side, and I think they've had the media backing. I think they've had the audiences. I think they've had the matchups. They've had star players, things like that, but they did not have a good showing whatsoever in this tournament. And Houston, in their case, I mean, look, Iowa State got beat by 3 in a very competitive game. That's going to happen. A lot of the teams that got beat by small margins, but you still got beat nonetheless. And then with Houston, I mean, the last hope, the Jamal Shead injury, I mean, how can you not say that made a massive difference in a game that you lose by 3 points, in a game where he wasn't available for the majority of it, and it was a 54-51 game? I mean, do they win that game if he's healthy? Yes, I fully believe that they do. We'll never know that. But regardless, you have to get around that. You have to still find a way, right? If you want to have those league bragging rights. And for the Big 12 this year, whether it was teams losing early or teams not being able to get to even the Sweet 16, it was a bad showing overall for the league. I don't think there's any doubt about that. If they had a team in the Final Four at least competing, you'd go, okay, that's good. But to not have anybody involved deep is not a good look for your whole mantra or your belief that you're the best league in the country. And that's where the ACC did see the crack in the opening and the door. They kicked that sucker down, and now they're going to try to put their own door on the hinges. But yeah, not a good tourney for the Big 12 at all.
No, and it sucks that Jamal Shead didn't get to play in most of that game. It's awful. Amanda and I were watching the game, and she goes, well, they said that they're going to try to let him go back in. I'm like, they're not even letting him stand up when he claps. Like, no, he's not.
No, he was.
That was gamesmanship. Like Tracy Wolfton, comes on and says, "Well, they taped it up and they're hopeful he can go."
One of the announcers was like, "I bet he comes back," and I'm like, "No, he's not."
That's how much he was hurting, how much he was out, because he would have probably taken a leg off if he could have gone back in there and helped him play.
But, and there is that asterisk, like the league would have probably looked better had a Houston had a Jamal. But you know what? That's part of the deal. So
grind through it.
Yeah, you got to grind through it. Injuries happen, and I do though. I mean, take all the conference pride stuff to the side. That was just an awful thing to see for a very good Houston basketball team who was right there at the top of the rankings all year long, wins the Big 12. I mean, just a great team, and he's clearly the guy for the Cougs, and just the timing of that, the moment of it all, I just felt gutted for Houston's fan base and for Kelvin Sampson and that team, and just felt awful for Jamal Shead that here in this moment and your big opportunity to try and go win it all, and not having multiple opportunities to go and do this any longer, you've got an ending like that to your career. I think that sucks, and it's part of the game. I understand, but man, that was just unfortunate to see.
We almost had an NC State Houston rematch.
Yeah, that would have been something.
But did not. One quick note: the ACC was 12-3 against the Big 12, including the tournament.
13-3.
13-3. Okay, 13-3.
I thought I saw 13, but 12-3. That says it all, anyways.
Me and Echo Chamber, he's fired up, and you should be an NC State fan also with Carla Jenkins. All right, when we come back, what does Rob Dauster think of the 4 teams? The stories, including John Jacobs, who was hired on Friday by Florida Atlantic, and a couple of the other stories in college basketball. Also, the voice of NC State. What a story this is, because NC State keeps winning, and he was almost done after, I think it's 34 years broadcasting their football and basketball games. His extended career going on, and now into the Final Four plus more. This is 365 Sports, and we appreciate your time today. It is pettyclinicalot.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you perform like you want to be, used to be, now. If your testosterone level is low, it can affect many things of how you exist, your lifestyle, who you are, how you feel. The one that gets a lot of the attention is ED, but it also could be just pure energy. It could be sleep habits. It could be you got some body fat that's developed, even if you're with a pretty good diet and also active. It can happen. Dr. Kent Petty wants to help you. Here's how you do this. Go to his website, pettycliniclowt.com, and then tell him I sent you. They will set you up. If you're around the location, he can get your blood work. He will look at the results, and if your testosterone levels are low, and you may not know that, but you kind of may have one of those symptoms or all of them, he can put you in a program so you can become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. He's also a doctor that can help you out. I've had this sunburn feeling that right now is kind of okay. It's on and off, but for the most part, it's always there. He did a full lab blood work with me last week. Everything came back clear. I was kind of hoping something would show up, but at least I now know all of that is fine too, because he was able to order the lab work. I gave my blood. He looked at the results and everything is fine. So now we work on something else. pettycliniclowt.com.
Rev up your excitement. Celebrate the spirit of adventure during the Jeep Celebration event. Join us at Allen Samuels in Waco as we roll out incredible deals on rugged and reliable Jeep vehicles you love. Seize the moment and drive home in the new Jeep of your dreams. With special financing options and exclusive offers, there has never been a better time to explore the world of Jeep. Hurry in, the savings won't last long. Visit AllenSamuelsDCJ.com and see them firsthand only at Allen Samuels in Waco. Let your adventure begin.
Come by, let's be friends.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one, commercial, farm and ranch, or residential. Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Let the journey to financial brilliance begin with Genco's limited time offers. Max your earnings with a Kasasa cash account and get paid monthly with a 4.25 APY. That's $425 annually. Then invest in a 13-month share certificate and earn 4.9 APY. That's $529. Earn cash and outshine the rest. At Genco, we offer you the sun and the moon. Kasasa based on average daily balance of $10,000. Certificate based on $10,000 investment. See GencoFCU.org for details. NCUA.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Rob Dauster, thefield68.com with us on 365 Sports. The Final Four is set. DJ Burns. My goodness, what a great story. I've read about where he's been, Tennessee, Winthrop, but what he's done and what NC State has done just reminds me a little bit about Jimmy V in '83.
Yeah, it does have some of those vibes, right? Like it's some underdogs, some second chance guys. The thing I love about DJ Burns is that he really has embraced this idea of who he is and his size, the skill level that he has, his ability and touch around the rim, and the fact that he's very comfortable in his own body, right? He's very comfortable with who he is. Like if you make fun of him for, let's just say what it is, being overweight, being out of shape, that's what drives him. That's what motivates him. And it's so much fun to watch. And he's got an electric personality. And, it's one of those things where I think a lot of people wanted Duke to be there, the executives, the people that are in charge of trying to get the most eyeballs on this event as possible, the people that are making money selling ads against the view numbers we're going to get here, right? A lot of them wanted Duke to be in this Final Four because it's Duke. I think having a character like DJ Burns is the kind of thing that makes college basketball special, right? There's no other sport in America where you can go from being a team that lost your last 4, that lost 6 of your last 7, that lost 10 of your last 14 games in the regular season, to winning 9 in a row and having a guy that went from this kind of like this no name on the team that is the third biggest story in their own state to being one of the biggest stories and one of the great characters in college basketball. It's beautiful. It's why this sport is the best sport, and it's why the NCAA tournament is the best way to determine a champion and the worst way to figure out who the best team in college basketball is. It's been a lot of fun to watch.
His smile, his personality is contagious, but man, if you watch him, and I was texting a coach last night, he's like, his feet are great, his soft touch for a big man. It's just like you don't expect that from him. And I didn't watch him at all until they get to the tournament. Saw the end of that game with Virginia on a highlight thing back during the ACC tournament. It's just so much fun. So you have him, who's the opposite of what you would think is a big man inside, and then you have Zach Edey, who's this 7'4", played like just a madman himself with 40 points and more. How much Matt Painter, what he's done at Purdue, how much of a great story is that too?
Yeah, I'm really, really happy for those guys because it's been a long time coming for Purdue. They've had some really, really good teams. They've had some unfortunate endings. One of them was obviously the Robbie Hummel team where Hummel tore his ACL and saw that season go up in flames. It was the last 3 years where they lost to double-digit seeds. It was last year's team that was so dominant throughout the regular season. They got knocked out in the first round of the tournament. Being able to bring everybody back. No one hits the transfer portal. Zach Edey doesn't go pro. And they decided to run it back when there was every reason for them to bail on it. I think it says a lot about the culture there. I think it says a lot about the coaching staff. I think it says a lot about the heart and the intensity and the intelligence of the guys on that Purdue roster. And I want nothing but the best for them. It's a fantastic storyline, and I know that like Zach Edey has kind of become this villain, and it's kind of hard for some people to root for him because of the way that he plays. But you're not going to find a better kid, a more humble kid, or a better story getting to the Final Four than Zach. You got to remember, this kid didn't start playing basketball until he was like 14 years old, right? He was a first baseman, a pitcher, and a goalie in hockey until they were like, yeah, you know what? You're 7'4". Maybe you should try this sport where 7'4" guys are rewarded. And he developed himself into being, the best player in college basketball, the most dominant big man that we've seen in college basketball in a generation. He's going to be the back-to-back National Player of the Year, and now he has a Final Four on his resume. It's been great to see him grow and develop and turn into this kid. And, I want nothing but the best for him, man. Him and Painter, that Purdue program, once people start to get to know them and now that they have the spotlight on them from being in the Final Four, I think people are going to realize just how outstanding that group is.
Rob, there's the UConn dominance, and we cover Baylor, we cover the Big 12. We've seen teams that have run through the tournament. Have you ever seen anything like what they've done so far?
No, man. It really is incredible what they've been able to build. I'm kind of getting shades of the 1990 UNLV team that ran through the tournament and Looked like nobody was going to catch him. I'm getting some 1999 Duke vibes from this group. And the thing that I'm worried about is that Purdue is lurking, right? Like, this is, to me, and I know that they got to play Alabama, and I know they got to play NC State, and I like Nate Oates, I like Kevin Keats, I like those guys. I want them to I don't want to just completely write off their appearance in the Final Four, but it's one of those where it's like, yeah, I'm glad you guys made the trip, but everybody wants the two juggernauts to face off. Everybody wants the team trying to go back-to-back to take on the team that is trying to go from losing to a 16 to winning a national title. They're the two best teams in college basketball. They've been the two best teams in college basketball all season long, and we want that matchup. I don't know anybody that doesn't want to see that happen. That's what we want. That's the way to kind of have this sport cut through, right? Is greatness taking on greatness. You have the greatest player that we've seen in the generation against the most dominant team that we've seen in the generation. I don't know who would not sign up for that matchup in the national title game.
I look at Alabama, and I've watched them all year long, and they've had some ups and downs, but I've always thought of them as they're fearless, and they don't worry about what the score is, the way they play, especially explosive on offense. How much does that give them a puncher's chance on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're going to beat UConn, you have to have an outlier performance from beyond the arc. Like, there's a lot of things that you got to do to be able to beat this team. You got to be able to blow up what they want to run offensively, right? And I don't know if Alabama can do that. You got to be able to get the big fella in foul trouble. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. You have to be able to find a way to make Tristan Newton and Cam Spencer uncomfortable offensively. And I don't know if Alabama is going to be able to do that. But the other thing that you can do is you can have an outlier three-point shooting game. You can go out there and you can make a whole bunch of threes. And that is the great equalizer. It kind of feels like one of those situations where we're talking about a mid-major team going up against a high-major team in the first round of the tournament, where it's like, well, there's a lot of things that they have to do to be able to get this one right. But if they have one of those nights where they make 19 3-pointers, then they're going to have a chance. Here's the thing about Alabama: they're probably going to get up 53s in this game. Like, that is what they do. They spread the floor, they space the floor, they try to drive, they kick it out, and they hit open threes. And when you have Donovan Clingan at the rim, right, I fully expect Nate Oates to go with one of these lineups where he's playing like a Grant Nelson or he's playing the Stevenson kid, and they are trying to go 5 out, make Donovan Clingan come away from the paint, and find ways to get up threes. I think they're going to shoot like 50 of them. And if they have one of those nights where they go like 24 for 52 from 3, they're going to have a chance to be able to beat UConn. Now, does that happen? I don't know. UConn's a very good 3-point defensive team. They have a kid named Steph Castle who's going to be all over Mark Sears and is going to give Mark Sears, who's been an All-American caliber point guard, going to give him nightmares. But there's still the chance that this team can catch absolute fire. We saw what they did in the second half against Clemson. And if you have a night like that, Alabama can literally beat anybody in college basketball. So that's going to be the key. Get those threes up, let them fly, and make sure they go in.
Of the teams, Rob, that did not win over the weekend, who should be the most disappointed? Who is the one that lost their opportunity that you never know when you're going to get it anytime soon?
You know, I feel for Tennessee because they are a Final Four team that ran into a national championship team in the Elite Eight. And I feel for Illinois. They're a Final Four team that ran into a national championship team in the Elite Eight. It sucks when the bracket shakes out that way. If Illinois was playing Duke or NC State or Clemson or Alabama, I have a very strong suspicion that Illinois would be sitting here in the national championship game or in the Final Four right now. Same thing with Tennessee. You know, they just kind of, the top 4 teams left in the tournament played each other in the Elite Eight. It is what it is. But the guy that I think is going to head into this week as they get ready for the Final Four, but the most man, I can't believe we couldn't get that done, is going to be John Shire. Like, this is his second season at Duke. He's trying to prove himself as the worthy successor to Coach K, and he had an opportunity against a rival where they were 7.5-point favorites to get himself to the Final Four in his second year as head coach. And they blew an 8-point lead in the second half, largely because their guards weren't good enough or tough enough or strong enough with the ball or mentally sound enough to be able to run the stuff they need to run. And, John Shire is a great guy, but this is one I think is that's one that's gonna stick with him for a while. If he ends up being good enough to be labeled as the best to never make it to the Final Four, this is going to be the story that people point to when it happens.
Scott Drew's coaching tree, which has been blooming all around the country, 2 inside of his own conference in the Big 12 with Tang and also McCaslin. We know about Paul Mills and others, Matt Driscoll, and now an incredible assistant coach. Gonzaga and Baylor blood in him, and John Jacobs at Florida Atlantic. Your thoughts about John?
Really, really smart, very well regarded in the industry. When he got that FAU job, the one thing I heard was, "Ooh, that's a really, really good hire from FAU," which tells you everything you need to know about a lot of the guys, the way that the coaching industry views him. Florida Atlantic is not an easy job. They're in the American now, and they had some of the worst facilities in Conference USA. So it's not going to be easy. I do think that living in Boca Raton is going to be nicer than living in Waco. I was down there for 4 days earlier in December, and let's just say that he is not going to be complaining about the scenery down there. You're living literally right there on the beach. There's a lot worse places to have a job and to kind of work out your professional life. So I think he'll do well. The first thing he's going to do is try to find a way to be able to keep Janelle Davis, Elijah Martin, and Vlad Golden in Boca Raton for another season. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But I think Jacobs is a very, very, very good coach.
How about, and this is it, Kelvin Sampson in Houston. We know how good they were, overcame injuries, and then the Jamal Shed injury in their game against Duke. I was like, golly, can you ever? And yet they still had a chance. Your thoughts about Calvin being so close again?
Oh, man, it's part of what makes the NCAA tournament is you got to get lucky. And if you're not going to get lucky, whether it's with injuries, whether it's with three-point shooting, whether it's with who you kind of draw in your region, this is one of those things that can happen. And Jamal Shed didn't deserve that ending, right? The year that he had, the career that he's had, what Houston was looked like they were going to be capable of doing this season. He didn't deserve it. He deserved a better ending than having to sit on the sideline wearing just a warm-up jacket while he iced up an ankle injury that's going to take 6 weeks to heal. It sucks. It's part of the game, but it's the one thing that I hate to see it.
Rob, thank you, man. I know it's a crazy time. Good luck. Have fun. The Final Four week, men's basketball. Rob Dauster, man, these guys are the best. We've talked about that. Thefield68.com, and I'm David Smoak, 365 Sports. And one quick note, and then we have a great story about NC State that is extending somebody's career, and a lot of emotions behind it, but Oklahoma State, Steve Lutz is going to be the head coach, hired from Western Kentucky. And he's been at SFA, he's been elsewhere, A&M Corpus Christi, and now the head coach at Oklahoma State. There we are with that. Gary Hahn, this is an incredible story, joins us now on 365 Sports, the voice of the Wolfpack for the last 34 years. Gary, you're with Craig and Paul. I'm David Smoak. Thanks for your time. You're trying to hit retirement, but I think you're probably enjoying the fact it hasn't started yet. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I mean, this is an incredible ride. The Pack's been riding a wave. All of a sudden, it's turned into a big tsunami, and that tsunami's headed toward Phoenix, Arizona now in the Final Four. It's an incredible story from the team that lost its last 4 regular season games, then won 5 in a row to win the ACC championship in Washington, D.C., and then to go on a run with 4 more wins and go to the Final Four. It's almost like it's a Hollywood script. That's pretty hard to believe, but it's all true, every bit of it.
Ed, did you think when Virginia lined up to shoot the free throw that would have given the 4-point lead, or even the last second 3, did you feel like it was over? That was going to be your last call?
Well, it wasn't looking good at the time. I didn't think much about it, but I did tell the audience right after the Wolfpack foul that McNeely had to miss 2 free throws, and the Pack had to get it down the floor quick and hit a 3, because that was the only chance that NC State had to send that game into overtime and stay alive. And that's exactly what happened. You got an 89% free throw shooter up there that misses both of them. I guess because of game pressure and the fact that Virginia was a lousy free throw shooting team all season long, and all the players kept hearing about that. Maybe that was in the back of his head. I don't know. But this guy's an elite shooter. And somehow, some way, he misses 2 free throws. Casey Morsell gets the ball up the floor to Michael O'Connell, and he almost had the shot blocked by McNeely, just got it off, just was trying to get it to the basket, I'm sure. It banks in. Pack goes to overtime, dominates in overtime, wins that game, and then the next night beats arch rival North Carolina for the ACC title, first since 1986. And it was that was just incredible. But I thought, I didn't say it on the air, but I thought after that shot went in, this is a team of destiny. That's what I'm thinking in the back of my mind, because this kind of stuff just doesn't happen. I mean, everything has to go right in that kind of situation. And I don't think we're ever going to see that again. I don't think you're ever going to see a team win 5 straight games coming from a 10 seed to win the ACC title like that. It's incredible stuff.
Is DJ Burns could he be the university president tomorrow if they asked? Because he's captured the hearts of the nation. Obviously, he's so fun, and the team is so fun. But he, in particular, seems to be like one of those guys that would be, you can do anything to anybody else, but if I'm a Wolfpack fan, you are not touching DJ Burns.
Yeah, I think Jay Billis said it best when he was describing DJ Burns. He said he got the body of a dump truck and the feet of a ballerina. I mean, that's just the way he is as a basketball player. He's about 280 pounds at 6'9", and he plays a very, very physical back-to-basket game. He's got every move, can shoot with each hand, got a mid-range jump shot. And Duke in the South Region Championship game tried everything possible. I mean, everything they could think of to try and guard DJ Burns, and they weren't able to do it. And he's very, very tough. He's an old school player. You don't see many back to the basket guys anymore. But as tough as he is on the court, he's as gentle off the court. He's just a big fur ball. I mean, he's just the friendliest kid you'd ever want to meet. He's very engaging, very approachable, loves the fans, loves the attention. I mean, he was playing for Winthrop. He never thought that he would get a chance to have this much attention, but he came to NC State a couple of years ago, became a fan favorite, and now the rest of the country's finding out about him. And I tell you what, he's loving every minute of it.
Gary, we all saw the comments from Jeff Capel and Brad Brownell there at the end of the season in regards to specifically the Big 12's rankings and the disrespect they felt towards the ACC as far as the allotment of teams in March Madness. And I'm not so much asking about the Big 12, but just what do you think the statement has been by the ACC so far? What do you think of the statement the ACC has made throughout this tournament? And what do you think it shows about the league?
Well, I think there's a lot of jealousy about ACC basketball, because I used to do games when I was at Louisville in the old Metro Conference, and then when I was at Ohio State in the Big Ten, and I was at Alabama for a little while as a kind of a producer, engineer, backup play-by-play guy there, the SEC. So I've seen other conferences, and all of those fans were always real upset. They always thought the ACC was the favored child. The ACC this, the ACC that, and if they ever beat an ACC team, it was almost like winning the national championship. I mean, I've been there, I've seen it, and even after all of these years, I think it's still there. And when the ACC has a year where it's not quite as dominant, then they just unload on the ACC, and they don't understand. I mean, I've called games in these other conferences, and they're all great. Nothing against the Big 12. If they're really good basketball. But as far as I'm concerned, having called games in these other conferences, there is nothing like ACC basketball. And when you start to unload on the ACC, you better watch it, because they're going to prove you wrong most of the time.
Is that also not just the names in the conference, the success in the conference, but also the atmosphere at those games, like you hear about with the SEC in football?
Well, yeah, you go to Duke and Cameron Indoor Stadium, and NC State hadn't won, but I think about maybe 2 or 3 times since I've been there in 34 years. I mean, it's that tough. Then you go to Carolina, it's always packed. NC State, usually a capacitive crowd when Duke or Carolina or Wake Forest is playing. You got those Big Four schools, and it's a tremendous rivalry. So I think that's part of it, and the fact that the ACC, either Duke or Carolina, most of the time has won so many national championships. I think that's why you got a lot of Duke haters nationally, because they're just tired of seeing Duke, and Coach K. Well, I got a lot of respect for Coach K, and I've never been a Duke hater. And I mean, that guy earned it, and he was one of the greatest motivators in college athletics that I've ever seen, and did things the right way, and was successful. I always hated to go over there though, because I knew it was going to be a tough ride for the Wolfpack over there at Cameron. But you had to tip your cap to what they did. But I think a lot of people just get tired of somebody winning all the time, and then they start to turn on you. And so, they're always looking for the underdog, and they ought to be behind NC State this week because the Pack is the true underdog of the Final Four.
Kevin Keats was, I don't know, like from the university standpoint under the hot seat, but fans were starting that little chatter about being frustrated with him, especially those last 4 games. I don't know if I've ever seen somebody go from the chatter to, oh, man, we were totally wrong about that. He just needed to find his stride quicker than Kevin Keats. What about him has he been able to filter out that noise? Because when you have struggles like they did down the stretch, it's hard to quiet the noise. But, man, has he quieted it?
Well, he has. You got to remember one thing, though. NC State wasn't all that bad. Even during the 4-game losing streak, the Pack was competitive in every game. But basically what would happen, there'd be a 5 to 7 minute stretch, most of the time in the second half, sometimes late in the first half, where NC State would have a whole bunch of defensive breakdowns or turn the ball over and give up points in transition, or they just go cold, ice cold from the field. The other team would go on a run, and that would decide the game. And so it wasn't like NC State was horrible. The Pack was competing. It just wasn't doing certain things. The ball screen defense wasn't very good. Guards were blowing right down straight line drives down the lane, going to the basket, and you can't have that. And NC State wasn't getting much in the way of complimentary scoring. It was just DJ Horn outside, DJ Burns inside, and, it was those two are bust. And you can't have that. And Coach Keats said, you guys told me before the season you want to win the ACC title. Well, here's the opportunity, but here's what you have to do. And he's got a veteran team. I mean, this team is full of transfers. The recruiting class last year, I think, was 5 transfers and 1 freshman, something like that. So you got a lot of experienced guys who have played a long time, so they know how to focus. They know what they need to do, and they locked in. They locked into everything that the coaching staff told them to do, and this is the most incredible thing about the entire situation. How fast this team turned it around and went from being competitive to winning, and that's just the incredible thing about it. And hang on a second, I got my phone's going crazy here. I got 2 phones going, and
that's okay.
So everybody's calling me. I'm not getting much work done, but I'm having fun talking. So that's the way it is. But anyway, they got it turned around real quick. You got guys step up offensively like Michael O'Connell, only had 3 double-figure scoring games as a point guard all season. I think he's scored in double figures in the 9-game winning streak at least 7 times or maybe more. Mo Diarra, who was playing pretty good at the end of the regular season, all of a sudden turns into a double-double machine as the 4-man. DJ Burns, who was a little bit inconsistent toward the end of the season, has become really consistent. DJ Horn now is locked in. Jaden Taylor has been up and down offensively, but he's really done it defensively during this 9-game winning streak. Guys have embraced their roles. Ben Middlebrooks has come off the bench. He's 6'10", 240, and he's helped both Diarra and Burns and has done, he's a high-energy guy. He's turned it up. So you have to have everybody turn it up, and that's what's happened. This team's playing with a lot of poise, tremendous mental and physical toughness, which they displayed in Washington, D.C. at the ACC tournament. They're together. They're connected. They're just oozing with confidence now. And I'm not going to count them out, even against Purdue. I mean, Purdue's a big mountain to climb, but I am not going to count out this Wolfpack team.
I know it was before your time there, but how much has this run, besides the obvious, brought back the 83 team that shocked Phi Slamma Jamma with Valvano and Thurl Bailey, Lorenzo Charles, Sidney Lowe, Terry Gannon, Derek Wittenberg, all of that, and they almost had a chance to play Houston. That didn't work out. How much has that been brought up in the last couple of weeks?
Well, I think it's been brought up by reporters who are not North Carolina reporters. Because if you're a North Carolina reporter, I've been hearing about the 1974 team and the 1983 team over and over and over and over and over for the last 34 years. And especially when the program was down, and it's been down for several years. I mean, when I first got here, it was down for probably about 10 or 12 years trying to fight its way back up, because when Duke and Carolina went to the moon, NC State went to the bottom, and the Pac's still trying to recover from all of that. And hopefully this is the big step forward. But yeah, I think people respect those two teams, but I think they want something new.
Yep.
And NC State fans want something new, and they've got something here with this team going to the Final Four. But, yeah, tremendous respect for the 74 team and 83 team, and that's always going to be a great part of NC State basketball history. But it's been a while, and NC State fans are hungry, and I don't blame them. And now they're howling to the moon right now. They're loving every bit of it.
Gary, I read the story about your announcement and the retirement, also what you've been through, the loss of your mother and having to juggle, of course, the priority there. How hard has this, it's been a wonderful run, but how difficult has this season been as well for you to, emotionally, and an unbelievable story?
Well, I was taking care of my mom. She was a stroke victim, and she had a stroke two years ago, and she died on the anniversary of her stroke 2 years later, and I was her caregiver, plus trying to do this. And if you've ever been a caregiver to an elderly person, that's a full-time job right there. But somehow the Lord Jesus Christ was able to make a way for me to do it and still perform at a pretty high level and get everything done. But, you know, I miss my mom. She was with me for almost 72 years, and a lot of people can't say that. So I'm rejoicing in that respect. And I'm sure that she wouldn't want to come back because she's in heaven now. But I still miss her, and I've got a lot of things I've got to do to take care of her affairs and all of that. Plus, I'm getting married in August, so I've got a lot of stuff going on. People ask me, well, what are you going to do after you retire? Well, I'm going to be slammed for about 3 years. So that's, you know, I've got a lot of stuff to do, and juggling all this right now. I think the Lord has blessed me with this run because it's taken, I'm not able to fixate on the loss of my mom. I have other things I've got to do. And this has been a crazy day because I've been doing all these interviews. But, you know, like I kidded around with other people. I've been here for 34 years and nobody ever gave a flip. And now all of a sudden I'm a big story. So
well,
that's the way it goes.
Well, Gary, no matter how it ends, it will end in Phoenix, which is a place that a lot of people retire. So it's very exactly appropriate.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna keep riding the wave. It's turned into a tsunami, and we'll see how how far it goes. But it's been a miracle run and an improbable run. But I'm telling you what, these guys are for real, and they believe in themselves. Oh. I mean, and pressure. There's no pressure on these guys. They've been playing under pressure for 9 straight games now. It was either win or go home, and so they know what pressure's about. And they know how to handle it, and somehow they just keep finding a way to win.
Gary, when I reached out to you, I wasn't sure you'd have the time, and I didn't expect a response, but I'm so glad you did. It's an incredible story. Good luck this weekend. Get that national title, and again, enjoy your last, I hope, 2 broadcast of NC State as voice of the Wolfpack. We appreciate your time, and good luck with all the personal stuff coming up in your life as well. We appreciate your time.
Well, you're very, very welcome, and all the best to you folks down there in the Southwest.
Gary Hahn, voice of the Wolfpack, with us. What a story. His mother passed away, getting married, as he mentioned, in August, having to deal with all of that, and then the emotion of every game he's done for 9 consecutive games, possibly the last game of a 34-year brilliant career on the radio with NC State.
Yeah, very cool. You want to root for more stories like that, right? You want to see him now go and have the opportunity to have his final game be calling a Wolfpack National Championship after listening to him. So, yeah, that would be super cool. I got no dogs in the fight here, so I'm like probably most people just sitting back, kicking my feet up and hoping for 3 great basketball games to end what has been a pretty good tournament thus far. So, yeah, they're the story right now, but there are 3 other teams that are excellent that are standing in their way potentially. So we'll see how it goes. But to even get to this point, the amount of PR that NC State's gotten from this, the timing of it with all of the ACC stuff and Florida State and Clemson, all of the negativity surrounding the ACC brand name right now, and to have them right in the mix is pretty cool and a great sign potentially for that conference in the years to come. Or, maybe that just makes NC State all the more attractive for any potential moves. I don't know.
When we come back, Nikki Collen on women's basketball, on Portland, on a lot of things that Baylor took a run at USC down to the wire, and a couple of other stories as well, and her emotions. Next on 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com, because of them. Because I've had an MRI from them on my back a couple of different times. When I went to go see a back specialist, a week ago today, they were able to make a pretty good diagnosis, and coming up on Friday, I will have an epidural in my lower back. I can't wait, and I surely hope that there is some relief. It's not like unlivable, but it's very difficult. It's been uncomfortable at times. But because of Dr. Rob Maxey, because of the business that he's a partner of, because of what they do, I've been able to get at least some treatment, and hopefully what happens on Friday is going to be something where I can kind of just relax a little bit and have more motion, and the physical part is not going to be there. Dr. Rob Maxey, Ideal MRI, $497 or less every single time you get an MRI there, and sometimes less. Located on I-35, just off of I-35 in the southern part of Waco, in the Central Texas marketplace. They will find out what hurts you. Whether your doctor needs an MRI, if they do, you suggest it if they don't bring them up at IdealMRI.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets, sirloin steaks, bone-in ribeyes, boneless ribeyes, and even prime rib. Cut specifically the way you want, the thickness that you want. They're all delicious. They have Norwegian salmon, mahi-mahi, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey, variety of cheese, and several options of sausage links, and even regular jalapeno or cheese snack sticks, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, and ground beef, marinated beef or chicken fajitas, and always large briskets and tri-tip available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and tradition continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, a full-service butcher shop and bakery, open Monday through Saturday. The Bauer family, Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Nikki Collen, Baylor women's basketball head coach, with us on 365 Sports after a gut-wrenching ending against USC up in Portland, Oregon. a team made a hell of a run. She joins us now with Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, and I'm David Smoak on 365 Sports. How are your emotions a couple of days later?
Not good yet, truthfully. I think the idea, like, I feel like we should be preparing to play UConn right now, you know, and knowing that game is going to go on tonight. You know, I'll be curious to watch that game. I just, you know, it was a weird feeling after it. You know, every year the emotions have been really different. When we lost, like, I felt like we ran into the wrong team at the wrong time. Our first year, last year, I thought we tapped out. You know, I thought the team that we had to make the round of 32 with our youth was I was like proud of them and happy with what we had done. And I just thought, you know, like, gosh, like a couple of things go a little bit differently. I thought we could. I actually thought we should win that game against USC. And so, you know, if I'd have coached a little better, if we'd have made a couple more shots, if we, you know, like there's all those what ifs, you know, but proud of the way we battled. Felt like we didn't get much of a whistle all night long. So, you know, and it's hard to watch it back and feel like that ball should have been ours with 28.5 seconds to go. Because you run that play down 2 instead of down 4, and you're in a totally different situation. So, but we definitely, we're not going to get the whistle in that game for sure.
Coach, a lot's been made of the court you guys were playing on and how strange that was. Of course, as a coach, you're not, you know, ever thinking about those things. Does it speak to a larger issue that the NCAA still has? I mean, we remember the debacle of a couple years ago where they don't have as much attention to detail for your game as they do the men's game.
You know, I'm not going to make it more than it is. I don't know that we can say like this would never happen in the men's game, or, you know, like I was trying to get people to understand, like with 8 teams at one site, you know, we got 1 hour on the court we played Saturday. We got 1 hour on the court on Friday. And you're kind of getting in the first 10 minutes, you got media there. And so we really just used it like a shoot around, you know, and it wasn't, and you're not standing in those moments. You're not, you know, sometimes you walk around looking for dead spots, you know, and I still think like a point guard that way, but you're not even thinking about like, oh, the lines are wrong. Cause you're not looking at the court in totality. Like you're working at one end and you're getting shots up, you're working at the other end. And when we went on that court, we didn't even do any 5-on-5. Like we just really treated it like a shoot around, and then went to an off-site venue. We only had 30 minutes on the court on Saturday for shoot around, and we just chose not to take it. So, you know, I think it's not that hard. I think when you have that many teams, you know, 8 teams practice on it for 2 days, and then teams play games, and then for it to not be really noticed until the 5th game. You know, there was 2 games Friday and 2 games Saturday. So, you know, disappointing that it happened. Obviously, it was one of those things where, at least in our sport, both teams, you play both ways. So, you know, it's kind of like equity and a mistake. But, you know, I'd like to believe that we do a better job going forward, making sure that things are spec'd out right. I mean, that's Portland, you know, and I think Portland is a city that, you know, if you're going to host that many teams and you're maybe want to add a WNBA team, you know, kind of how you do anything can be perceived as how you do everything.
Coach, reaching the Sweet 16 is a big deal always. When it comes to this 23-24 squad, I know that's not the ultimate goal, but it is quite the accomplishment. What are you going to remember most about this group, and how hard is this process now postseason of having to say some goodbyes?
Yeah, unique group. I mean, it really, you know, we really felt like in the summer as we started to practice, that we had something special, that we could have something special if we got them to all kind of buy in to it really being about team. And, you know, like I certainly didn't know when, we played Utah the second game of the season. Like, that was kind of the first moment that I thought, wow, we really could be good. And a lot of it had been because we just showed up so big in that moment, and took a team that, didn't play at full strength for the rest of the year after our game. I just thought we played with a lot of poise, even opening conference play at Texas. I think those were the moments. And I think then you stumble a little bit like most teams do. And we had to make change, and we had to get them to believe in change again. And we saw players like fight through slumps and then pull out of slumps. And I think the fun part was seeing kind of what Jada Walker could bring late in the season. It was seeing, the way Bella defended Juju Watkins. It was seeing, kind of this opportunity for maturation for the future, and what it can be. And certainly, everyone always assumes like everyone will be back. And I think these days you can't assume anything. With the portal the way it is, you do your best to treat kids right and put them in position to be successful. And I'd like to believe we'll have the core of our team back, and this is not any kind of me giving anyone a premonition that something's getting ready to happen or there's going to be bad news, because it's not that at all. I just think that, I'm pretty sure Kelly Harper was blindsided at Tennessee today. So sometimes you don't know what the future is going to bring. And I don't say that like I think I'm going to get fired tomorrow either. So I feel like my examples are really terrible right now.
Oh, good.
But you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it gives you this, I think the game made me, like, I saw moments from Bugs, like in the third quarter where I thought, okay, Bugs, like, this is what we need all the time. We need that player that's like, oh, you're not guarding me? I'm going to take one dribble and eat the space up and shoot my jump shot. So I saw like really, really good things from the team and what we can do in the future. But I also think, I feel like, it would have been fun to get 2 years out of Dre, when you talk about departing seniors, like where we could have gotten her, I think with a second year, if she would have, really understood like what we needed and when to pop and when to roll sometimes. And, really be that versatile, five and be able to kind of then be pushed down to the four when we add some size and some experience, and more of a true center. And I think Asia kind of had to deal with, this year was a challenge for Asia because he had never not been the go-to player. 3 years at Missouri, she was the go-to player. 3 games at Baylor, she was our go-to player, and then she gets hurt. And it just was a process back for her, and you saw moments of it, but you never saw the like, I'm going to dominate every possession. Asia that even our fans saw when we played, against her when she was at Missouri. And that's how sometimes injuries, they take their toll, and it takes time for that player to get, kind of their bounce back. And I think that's the thing for her. She just lost a little bit of her bounce.
Nikki, I started covering women's basketball in the late 70s because I went to a couple of schools that were really good at the time, including Stephen F. Austin with Sue Gunner. And I've seen the history of the game. And there have been great players along the way: Nancy Lieberman, Cheryl Miller, Diana Taurasi, Brittany Griner. And the game now with Caitlin Clark and company getting more attention than ever before. But with that becomes like a microscope. And with that comes stories and more things that are out there for everyone to have opinions about. And then you have to lose a game. And then you find out about a story that's not even about your program that takes a pot shot at your program. And you were very emotional about it and talked about being offended. How did you find out about that? And where are you today because of what was said?
It's really interesting because I'll say, it's amazing how I think the majority of the time I articulate pretty well, like I don't think that I'm misinterpreted very often. I obviously wear my heart on my sleeve and I'm not afraid to share my thoughts. Sometimes like I probably shared too much. But I think that it was, everyone was anticipating this article, right? I mean, you couldn't not anticipate it based on even Coach Mulkey's press conference. And so, I knew it was coming out, and I had just been that paragraph screenshotted. Now, it comes out the day we're playing in the Sweet 16. My point of not reading it was not that I was purposely not reading the article. I just really don't know the ins and outs, other than everyone said it was a pretty watered down version of what people were expecting, but that paragraph about, our program withering and not being top tier, that was sent to me, that entire paragraph. And so when I've had people attack me on Twitter, oh, you're going to talk about something, you're going to be offended by something that you didn't read. Okay. I didn't articulate that very well, because I read very clearly what it said about Baylor today. And certainly, I have every right to be offended by that. When you've had the success that we've had over a 3-year period, there's a lot of coaches that never achieve that in their entire career. And so as much as I want this program to be the elite of the elite and to be competing for championships, national championships every year, to say we're not top tier and release it on a day that we're playing in the Sweet 16 and have accomplished what we have, 7 top 25 wins, ranked as high as 4th in the country, we're not withering, So I think it was a little bit about being defensive as much as I think I was offended, but it was about being defensive for who we are and what we stand for and how we go about what we do. And this idea that we're not still an elite program is very wrong, And so I think in that moment, I had no intention of going up there. And then it was Nicole asked me that question, and it kind of just spilled out, because it was let's go prove, we even talked about it before the game, and so I wasn't planning on talking about we're not withering and we're blooming. It just kind of was one of those things that came out, because that's what I really feel like is happening. I really feel like we have a chance to bloom, and for people to see us play our way and have 17 assists. And, what USC is awesome. And I have a ton of respect for them. They run a lot of isolation basketball. We're setting screens, we're moving the ball. I think when we're at our best, we're really fun to watch. We're really pretty to watch. And I know people are going to pay to watch Juju, and she's an unbelievable basketball player. But I think that we're going to continue to sign great basketball players at Baylor, and we're going to play a style that is going to continue to keep us, at an elite level. So I don't know if that was a better articulation of what I was trying to say in that press conference, because I think most people understood it, but clearly there are those that always want to find fault with what you say, when I think I had every right to be offended by it was almost like a side remark.
This segment with Nikki Collen, Baylor women's basketball coach, brought to you by Richard Carr Motors, the Baylor Bear Hotline. Paul?
Yeah, Coach, I read every word of the article, and I remember when I came across that part, it just felt like an unnecessary stray, on, a comparison to something in it. It was well, I don't think that's completely, I said, I knew it wasn't completely fair, a comparison, because that would mean you guys aren't making the tournament, doing, better each year that you've been there. Yeah, it was kind of weird to catch that in there when the article wasn't even about you guys, but I thought, the way that you guys used it and the way that you did was the right way, because look, this as a coach, anything that can put that chip on your shoulder for a game, even if it's temporary, can be fuel. So I thought you handled it the right way.
Well, and this is the way I look at it, and my point was, feel free to come and see what we're doing and why we're doing it. If this was truly a 2-year project, which I have no idea whether this was a 2-year project in terms of then, this whole idea of, okay, let's continue to talk about this. We're going to talk about women's basketball, but we're going to talk about, Like, come see what it looks like. Come see if it's really withering as we like open the development center and, you know, continue to get, you know, big time recruits in here and sell a lot of tickets to games. And you know what? Like, I'm never going to be Kim Mulkey. I'm not. And she had incredible success here. And I've never tried to downplay that. I know that if I consistently compare myself to her, then I'm going to struggle with just life. You know, if I feel like I'm constantly like, I have to be authentically me and move and shake the way I shake and ultimately like trust that Mac and Linda have like believe in me and believe in our vision and believe, you know, that we're doing it, you know, the right way for us, you know, not that it wasn't the right way before, but the right way for us. And so, yeah, and I still haven't read the article. So I just, you know, like, it's just one of those things that, for me, like when you live in this world, you know, this is just part of it, you know, and you're right. Like, I think you wish your team was extrinsically, you know, was more intrinsically motivated. Like, you don't need these things, but ultimately we all do operate sometimes, with a little more spirit, you know, when there is that external motivation.
Nikki, one more question from me, and appreciate your time. I know family's in town. Hope you had a great Easter weekend, despite obviously the loss in Portland. But South Carolina's unbeaten. NC State is having a great run with both men and women. They just knocked out Vic Schaefer in a really good UT team that you know about. You have that game tonight, the showdown of the national championship rematch with Caitlin Clark, LSU, Angel Reese, etc. And then there's that UConn and Juju Watkins playing tonight. Is it at its best peak right now? And is women's basketball finally getting, in your opinion, what it deserved as far as the attention?
You know, I think our game has always been great, and I think people are starting to see it. And if it takes social media, you know, if it takes a little bit of controversy, if it takes student athletes that are a little bit bigger personalities, I think, you know, I'd like to believe. I think people that think that Iowa is going to cease to be good when Caitlin Clark leaves are crazy. That means they really only are following Caitlin Clark, and she's phenomenal. She is. But I think Iowa was good before Caitlin Clark, and they'll be good after Caitlin Clark. Will Iowa be sellout games at Wisconsin and at Purdue? I don't know, you know, because I do think that people buy tickets for Caitlin Clark, just like people used to buy tickets to watch Brittany Griner because she was different and she was special. And people are going to buy tickets to watch Juju and, you know, the resurrection in some ways of USC this year because of her being there. You know, and then they went on to sign the number 1 ranked recruiting class coming in. So it's kind of like they have this ability to ride this wave based on, you know, Lindsay Gottlieb doing such a good job to get Juju. But I think you're starting to like follow players. And I think the more players are highlighted, the more our game grows, the more competitive it seems. And so I'd like to believe we're not having a moment. You know, it's just kind of like we're creating this momentum that, you know, our game has, you know, I don't spend a lot of time comparing our game to the men's game. You know, it's no different than when I was in the W. You really can't compare it to the NBA. It's different. It's a different entity. And, you know, we're going to have some crossover fans and we're going to have some that aren't, you know, but ultimately, you know, it's just good to see really the momentum of our game, the games being on ABC, the ratings skyrocketing. I mean, they say tonight's LSU Iowa game will like break every ratings record, which is incredible. I think that goes towards, you know, the ability of women's basketball to make money, you know, and create our own separate contracts and to not ride coattails. And so I think it's a really cool time. And I hope this is momentum going forward. I hope that even our fans that are watching these games and recognizing like, you know, hey, we went to Virginia Tech and like you couldn't hear the person next to you. It was so loud. You know, it's like that's where we're headed. The number of sellouts in the NCAA tournament, like we've got to continue to grow our crowd and foster where 3,000 isn't a good crowd. 5,000 isn't a good crowd. It's not a great crowd until every seat is filled, because I think that's kind of the quality of basketball that we're going to continue to play and that I think our league is going to play. And when you look at Arizona making the tournament and Colorado making the Sweet 16, and Utah making the round of 32, but without Gonzaga making like 9 threes in a row, they may be advanced. So we're adding, yes, we're losing Texas and OU, but we're adding 4 really good schools and 3 that are just, have been really good the last few years in terms of on the women's side. So I think our league's going to continue to get better.
I want to close it out with this. You mentioned, you responded about the 3-point line, and of course some people, they don't know sense of humor. They don't know you well enough. I thought it was funny, though, when you responded, by the way, most people don't know me, but I was being sarcastic. I'll use an appropriate emoji to show tone in the future.
Yes. I mean, it's almost you can't. I mean, how many times have we as humans sent a text message that gets misinterpreted or you don't read it? And I am, for better or for worse, my defense mechanism is sarcasm. It can be really good. It can be really bad. But when our players have to learn really quickly, be sarcastic. Yes, that is my defense mechanism. I may not yell and scream a lot. I may not, but it's kind of that whole idea. And anyone who knows me knows, I'm not even someone that, that there are coaches and players for that matter that are we have to shoot on our main court. When we played at Farrell, I would always rather be in our practice gym. Always. It's not we got to get the depth perception right. The lights are different. I'm hey, if you work on your shot and you get your hand at the rim and you shoot it straight, you just need repetition. It's not where the repetition is. I don't care if you're shooting outside against the elements. You train yourself to shoot the basketball. It's not okay, there's glass back there. Now there's different if the sun's shining in your eyes. But, so I'm very much someone that's not, and I got that a little bit, I think, from Patino when he was at Louisville. He would never, ever practice at Freedom Hall. It was always in the practice gym. He didn't even have shoot around in Freedom Hall. And, he was one of the best coaches I'd ever been around. So I'm thinking to myself, is it that big a deal? So to me in that moment, it was that was my point. Oh, that's why, almost joking. That's why we shot the ball so much better in the second half. Because in the first half, we were getting good shots. We were getting open shots. And, now I'm looking at them going, well, maybe they were long. Maybe we did shoot long, even though Jana was I think I was just too excited, I think I shot it long because, so yeah, no, it was true why I thought, people aren't paying attention to the court when you show up. You're just showing up and you're not, you don't think you have to check those things. It's you're not measuring to see if the free throw line's exactly 15 feet. You don't do those things when you show up at a venue. So, but yeah, I don't think that's why. I think we just came out more motivated. I thought our rhythm was better. I thought we got shots in the flow. We got one more. We got, we were just playing our game, and we were just playing it better than we were in the first half. So I think that's why we made shots. We settled down. We kind of had control of what we were doing and why we're doing it. But yeah, people that were taking it, oh, okay, that's me making excuses. It's no, I'm not making excuses. So yeah, I don't know. Social media is what it is. We have to live in that space ultimately because it's how young people function and there's probably more parents of recruits on Twitter than there are kids. The kids are on TikTok and they're on Instagram, but ultimately, I think it's, we have to live in that space, but we also have to take it with a grain of salt.
Nikki, I've enjoyed the access throughout the year. We enjoyed the time today. Thanks for being a part of the show, and go get some players. I know you have already as well, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Nikki Collen, Baylor women's basketball coach with us. following the weekend, the 3-point line, the loss, and really she's great as someone who can talk about the game because she's seen it at all the various levels from the WNBA to what she's doing now.
You know what I think is happening with women's basketball is, look, a decade ago, or a little bit more, but when Brittany Griner was popular, and Smokey, you and I were all over the country with them when they won the national championship, I'll never forget Bowling Green, Ohio, seeing little girls lined up out the door to watch Brittany Griner in practice when they had the open shoot around. All those things. It was really an awesome thing to see because, for years in this country, we didn't push girls in sports too far. It was always like, well, they can play a little while, and then it was always kind of dismissed. And then you saw them out the door. I think we're seeing a lot of those little girls that were, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. Now those are the Caitlin Clarks of the world, right? That
want to be.
Oh yeah, but they're in college, so they're Caitlin Clark now because they came up and they're like, man, basketball looks like it's fun. I'm going to play basketball. And now Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and players like that, Juju Watkins, are going to do that for that next wave of girls who are like, man, this is fun. And then the game will grow because that's how it has to grow organically. You can't just tell people you should go watch something and then expect them to go. It's got to grow on its own, and it looks like it's maybe finally starting to do that.
Well, I'll put it this way. I think LSU will smoke Iowa tonight, just like they did in the national championship game, but it will be an incredibly highly visible game. Garrett, do you have the odds what Vegas is saying, what they're saying about the ratings of this game tonight between Iowa and also LSU? I thought I sent you something.
Let me look.
I thought there was a Yahoo Sports tweet that I sent to you, but that's okay.
I mean, I have this one.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about?
Yeah, this is from a guy at Vegas. I'm fully expecting this to be the most bet women's college game we've ever had at BetMGM. When it comes to the rematch in the national championship game, which LSU dominated. There's personalities here. There's the attention on the LSU program, obviously with Caitlin Clark, and it's going to be on prime time. And I do think that LSU will win that game easily, but we'll see. We'll see if Caitlin goes off for like 45 and it's still not be enough. Thanks to Nikki Collen. There are some other basketball notes to get back to. We mentioned Steve Lutz at Oklahoma State. SMU as their coach. We'll get to that in the next segment and more. And this is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace. They have put up the price for their live crawfish, 30-pound sacks available, bags, and the price remains $4.99 a pound. That'll eventually drop a little bit as we get deeper into the spring. You can call and order at Waco Custom Marketplace. You go to Facebook, their Facebook page has the number. Or you can drop by their location at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. They have a full-service butcher shop and a full-service bakery. Orders must be placed for these 30-pound bags by Wednesday at 6, and then you could pick them up anytime after 4 o'clock on Friday. But you must order the live crawfish 30-pound bags by 6 o'clock Wednesday. Pick them up anytime after Friday at 4 o'clock or when they're open throughout most of the day on Saturday. It's Waco Custom Marketplace. Live crawfish, $4.99 a pound at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Cars priced right, day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
To Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student-athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student-athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student-athletes can donate to fund BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Dave Borges, who covers UConn, will join us in this segment a little bit later on, and also we'll discuss Purdue basketball at 5. But here are some stories. Let's go back again. Steve Lutz hired by Oklahoma State, and it's been open for a long time. I think even last week we were like, hey, is Oklahoma State going to hire anybody? They got the coach for Western Kentucky. He's been elsewhere. We mentioned that. Good for Oklahoma State. The reaction to this, not always is going to be good, depending on who the analysts or writers, but the reaction to what he's done at Western Kentucky with the Hilltoppers, the Toppers, Oklahoma State gets their man.
Yeah, I mean, it was very briefly at Western Kentucky just this past season, but was able to get some good things done there at Western Kentucky and Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and obviously has a very stout resume when it comes to just all the places he's been. Purdue, I saw somebody mention that he was part of the Zach Edey recruitment. That's kind of how he initially got on the radar for Purdue, and I haven't been able to triple check all of that, but that was one of the passing comments that I saw. Got a lot of extensive history in Texas with his time at Incarnate Word down in San Antonio, at SFA, at SMU, at A&M Corpus Christi. So he's been all over the place in the Lone Star State, which should bode well for a program in Stillwater that is definitely going to want to come south and find some basketball talent, and has done plenty of that in years past as well. But he's spent a lot of time, 6 years in Nacogdoches, 6 years in Dallas. So he's going to be very extensive, one would think, when it comes to being able to come and recruit in Texas. But beyond that as well, and all of his teams as a head coach, of which there have been 3, 2 at A&M Corpus Christi, and then this 1 year at Western Kentucky, have all been in the postseason. At A&M Corpus Christi in 21-22, won the conference tournament. In 22-23, won the conference tournament and the regular season as well. And then in this past season with Western Kentucky, won the conference tournament. So he's won the conference tournament all 3 years as the head coach, and then in that 22-23 year won the regular season title as well. So, he's not going to blow you away, I think, as far as a name goes. He's not going to win the social media press conference just based off the announcement alone, but he could win the press conference when he's introduced, and just good to see that Oklahoma State's finalized what's been in the works and been talked about now for a few days. But to have it official, to have that sewn up and be able to now move on to constructing this team and getting this program back on track, this is a good step forward to start doing that.
Drake is apparently targeting Ben McCollum, Northwest Missouri State, and then SMU. This was actually a part of the end of last week from USC. Andy Enfield, official now, the head coach at SMU.
Yeah, it's a great hire for them. He's been in the tournament a bunch of times. I mean, he had Florida Gulf Coast, on that run in 2013. He's been at USC for 11 years, and SMU said they were going to swing big when they let Rob Lanier go, and they did with Andy Enfield bringing him in. And as they move into the ACC next year, they're jumping into one of the best basketball conferences, if not, maybe the best one. And I know, especially based on
this year so far,
and how it's worked out. So they're not going to take a knife to a gunfight, that's for sure. So Andy Enfield comes into the ACC and backed by people who, at least while they can, are going to throw money at things until the powers that be tell them that to stop spending their money. But right now they're going to try to make a go of it and show that they can be a power team.
Well, here's the thing about all this ACC stuff. Florida State and Clemson are still in the ACC until they're not. Mm-hmm. So if you're SMU or whoever else, you can't sit there and go, well, we better not go hire a good basketball coach because this conference might not exist in 5. Like, you can't operate that way. So they've got to go out and do the best things that they can do, especially being the new school and not having the backing as far as power conference history like a Cal and Stanford are rolling in with. Not that they're like super hot programs necessarily, but for SMU, this is new territory. This is territory they've been trying to enter for about 30 years now, and so they're swinging big and they're writing big checks as they are wont to do. And so, yeah, this is a hire where I think some of it, the responses I saw was like, well, he kind of saw the writing on the wall in Los Angeles. Some of it was, hey, lower pressure and still a big power gig as compared to maybe being at USC. And, kind of like I saw somebody put the example of Shaka Smart leaving Texas. Now, he might have been on his way out eventually anyways, but just in basketball, just a better fit somewhere else. So I don't know. Whatever led him to SMU, dollar signs, ACC access, the pressure, the whatever that it could be, it's a big hire for SMU, and it appears to be a great hire for them on paper. So let's see what he can do with the program that's clearly swinging for the fences and seeing that this window of opportunity is finally opened, and they're damn sure not going to let it close without doing everything they possibly can to break the glass and never have to be on the other side of things again.
Hey, you got the opportunity. Now make sure you're ready when you get there. And they are, it appears in football, at least they think they are. With Rhett Lashley and now with Andy Enfield. Now, a couple of quick notes in the transfer portal. The first one was that Pop Isaac, Texas Tech, has entered the portal. Jeff Goodman with this story, among others, had a big year for Tech. Some controversy surrounding him off the court, but he's in the transfer portal. Also, former Baylor Dane Danger went to Illinois. They were a part of the Elite Eight. He has entered the transfer portal. He started his career at Baylor.
That's 3.
And yes, there you go. And same thing with, by the way, DJ Burns. He has been to 3.
That's 3.
And then also I did see where a couple of players from Florida Atlantic that Rob Dauster brought up that John Jacobs needed to keep out of the portal have entered the portal, at least right now. They are looking around. Whether they end up at Michigan with their former coach, Dusty May, or somewhere else remains to be seen.
Pop Isaacs at Texas Tech, given what happened in the Bahamas, and that I don't think was sustainable. And I know that Grant McCaslin, went to bat to keep him on the team initially, but I don't think that that's something that long-term they could have done.
We're going to hear from Dave Borges, who covers UConn, here in a moment.
I saw some Tech fans trying to rationalize why this is not that big of a deal, but I don't know. I think that's one of those kind of like, on the way out, you're suddenly diminishing what a guy was able to do. I know there's other stuff too, but I think he was a pretty solid player, not irreplaceable in the grand scheme of things for Grant McCaslin, but he is a loss, and I think that to say otherwise is off-court notwithstanding would be just kind of sour grapes a little bit, but Tech will be fine. They'll be totally fine. I did see some Red Raiders fans looking at the run NC State's on and going, well, we lost, but at least we lost to this team.
A red hot
we
team.
lost early and we lost it, but we lost to the team that is in the Final Four now. So there is that. You don't want to do that year after year of like, yeah, but we lost. It was a bad matchup. But this year, they met Cinderella early. They just didn't know it quite at the time.
Thank you to the super chats from Bobby B. Also to J.G. Neolardo, who got hit with an April Fool's joke that Kelvin Sampson, from a former trusted roommate from 12 years ago, saying Sampson was retiring. And then, of course, 15 minutes later, he realized it's April Fool's. Dave Borges covers the My goodness, the sledgehammer of UConn. What a run they're on with Hurley, a company. They are just mauling people. Dave, thanks for your time. Appreciate it as well. Have you been hit with any April Fools today at all?
Yeah, my son told me he got cut from his middle school baseball team, and it turned out to be an April Fool's joke. So, yeah, he got me for a little bit.
All right, so UConn is just wreaking havoc on the tournament. Obviously, the Final Four coming back. Alabama coming up. Alabama can put it up with anybody as far as the points. But UConn is just mauling people. We've discussed this with you even last week, and they just keep just killing people on the court. Your thoughts about why they're good, they're the defending champions, but this is getting almost silly?
Well, because they have the number one offense in the country per Ken Palm rankings, if you go by those, and number 4 defense, and that's a pretty lethal combination. There's no other team that has 2 in the top 10, I believe, or certainly not the top 5. They can beat you in so many ways. They have great depth in their starting lineup. All 5 guys average in double figures. They have guys coming off the bench who could start for a lot of other teams. They have 3-point shooters. They have monsters in the middle. They have athletes, and then defensively, again, they have the 7'2" Donovan Clingan in the middle, who changes the scope of every game he plays in. But they also have real good on-the-ball defenders on the perimeter. So, and they're very well coached. There's just not a lot of weaknesses there.
They went on a 30-0 run the other night in the Elite Eight, which just does not happen all that often, especially when you're playing in the Elite Eight. This wasn't some early season warm-up game. This was, as close as it gets. So when did you think the run would end? Did you, watching Illinois, did you think, well, eventually they got to do this before it gets to this point? When it got to 30-0, I was flabbergasted.
Yeah, going in, everybody, myself included, thought Illinois might be their toughest challenge, certainly to date, and maybe even ultimately in the entire tournament. And it was a tie game with less than 2 minutes to go in the first half. And UConn scored the last 5 of the second half, but you're thinking this is a tight game and could go down to the wire, or at least be the first NCAA tournament game UConn wins by fewer than 10 points in a while. And then all of a sudden, 25-0 start to the second half. It got ridiculous after a while. And again, that's not only the great offense, but the great defense as well. I was convinced Illinois was going to score at some point, and then ultimately they did.
Dave, a lot of attention being paid to the head coach and just kind of his eccentricities and some of his comments there in the post-game presser, and just obviously a lot of attention right now on Dan Hurley and the Huskies. But what's it like to cover him and press conferences, and just how would you describe his personality and kind of what that's like riding along the whole time?
Yeah, he's unique. He's been that way ever since he got here. He's been with the superstitions and the idiosyncrasies, and we've been dealing with those for the past 6 years, and it's now becoming a little more well-known on the national level. But, and the things he finds to motivate his team, the slights and the perceived snubs that the team gets that he uses, I'm not even sure he believes half of them. I mean, complaining that the committee really didn't treat them well as the number 1 seed, even though they were playing in Brooklyn and Boston, and he complains about the Big East schedule throughout the season, saying that they play too many teams that have an extra day's rest before they play UConn. Stuff like that. It's like, I don't think he even believes half of these things, but he's got a chip on his shoulder, and he uses it to motivate his team, and his team's got a chip on his shoulder. And I guess you kind of have to continue to find those things, because you don't want to get complacent when you're winning all these blowouts.
So do they play like he coaches, or the personality of him?
Yeah, I would say so. Not everybody. I mean, Cam Spencer is their shooting guard, and he's just like Hurley in his intensity and his fire, and he's picked up a few technicals, yelling at fans and things like that. But then again, Tristan Newton, the sort of the point guard, is a laid-back guy from El Paso, Texas, who doesn't really show a whole lot of emotion. Stephon Castle, the freshman, is kind of similar. So it's not like they all have the same personality, but they all have that edge. They all have they all love basketball. They all care about playing for each other, as opposed to NIL stuff and draft pick, for becoming a one and done pick, stuff like that. So they have that. So he's really infused that into the team. So even though they don't have the same manic personalities, they all have the same drive and desire to win.
Dave, they have been so in control in the tournament. Has there been a single moment where you thought, oh, they're playing sloppy?
Sloppy? Yeah. I'm trying to think of this particular tournament. I mean, not really. Again, they did against Illinois. They were up 9-0 to start the game, and then by near the halftime it was a 23-23 game. So they kind of, actually, to be honest with you, their 3-point shooting the last couple of games has not been very good. If there's something to criticize, it's that. Now they've just been able to pound it down low to Donovan Clingan and beat teams out in transition. So it hasn't really played a major factor, obviously. But I guess if to sort of answer your question, the one thing they'd like to tidy up a little bit is their 3-point shooting. Because I think they were 3 for 17 the other night, and they had a couple of subpar shooting nights in Brooklyn as well. So that's one thing they need to clean up a little bit.
Dave, Alabama can fill it up. They have scored a bunch of points, and they are not afraid to throw it up. But we had Rob Dauster from the Field of 68 on earlier. He said he thinks Alabama at least might try to shoot about 53s and hope they hit about 20 of them. They have faced UConn dudes and teams that can fill it up, Creighton, among others. Gonzaga, I know they played Gonzaga. What is Alabama? Who do they remind you of a couple of teams other than maybe the ones I've mentioned that UConn has played?
That UConn has played. I was going to say Kentucky because they're kind of an all offense, no defense type of deal. But UConn didn't play Kentucky this year. Hard to say. They're kind of unique in the sense that, like you said, I think they were did they lead the nation or second or third in the nation in 3-point attempts, and they shoot it at a pretty good clip. And so Nate Oates is all about the metrics of 3-pointers or layups and dunks and nothing in between. And trying to think if there's a Big East team that's really like that. Creighton a little bit. But Creighton kind of tightened up its defense a little bit this year, and they have a 7-footer inside that can play Clingan pretty well. Yeah, I would just say that I think UConn knows what they're in for. Nate Oates and Dan Hurley are very close, so there's not going to be too many surprises. And I wouldn't doubt that they're going to just fire up from 3, and because that might be the only way you can beat UConn is just get real hot from 3, or even just throw up a million of them and hope, like you said, maybe 15, 20 of them fall.
Well, the one thing about that is if some of them fall, then that's probably their chance. At the same time, if they don't have a good night shooting, it could be another one of these crazy blowouts. I don't know if that's going to happen. But UConn's defense against the 3, Illinois, weren't they the number 1 offensive team in America? And had them like bludgeoned throughout that game.
Yeah. Well, again, Donovan Clingan changes everything when he's in. He forces teams to take shots they might not want to. He forces them to take maybe more threes than they want to. Now you can't. Alabama can't shoot enough threes. So, but the perimeter defense, Stephon Castle, the freshman, he's going to probably be an NBA lottery pick in a few months, and it's because he's a 6'6" guard who can defend and he's very athletic. So he's an excellent on the ball defender. Then he goes to the bench, and they bring in a guy named Hassan Diarra who is even more of a pest in terms of defensively. So they can shut down your guards. They can shut down the bigs with slinging inside with his substitute, Samson Johnson, who's a 6'10" jumping jack athlete. So that's why they're so good defensively, and that's why it's hard to see teams beating them, or even just kind of like putting up big offensive numbers against them. But I think that's what Alabama's best shot is.
Dave, thanks for your time. UConn trying to join NC State with both men and women in the Final Four. NC State doing that because of the run with DJ Burns. And then also the women beating Texas yesterday and getting on top of them at halftime by 12 and then winning by 7, 8, 9, 10 points or whatever. They controlled that game. Meanwhile, UConn is 30th out of 351 teams. for three-point defense. So that's really good if you think about, again, football there's 115, basketball there's 350, maybe 3, and they're 30th in the country in three-point defense. So that will be interesting to see how Alabama shoots it against them coming up this next weekend.
That 30-0 run was insane.
Stupid.
I mean, that was
Ridiculous.
Incredible, and just simply don't see that very often, if ever. I don't think that wasn't a history based on what I saw, but I mean, it was, as far as I'm concerned. Like, I mean, I'm going to remember that forever.
Well, and it was the way it was also happening.
Right, yeah.
UConn, I mean, they were playing really good defense, but Illinois was getting up shots, and I thought good open looks. They were figuring it out. They were just clanging, clang, and not getting rebounds. And then Klingen was just causing problems for them. They did not have an answer for him. And yeah, it was just so, I thought early, I was like, okay, Illinois muddied this game up. That's what they kind of needed to do. And then UConn was like, not really.
Really.
We just need to stretch.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have seen the debate on whether they're a blue blood or not. Have y'all seen that? Like, just kind of on the UConn. They've won 5 titles since 99. They are a blue blood.
Blue bloods don't have to be born during the Roman Empire.
Yeah, like you didn't have to have titles in the 50s to count. Like, they've won 5 titles since 99. They could win a 6th with 2 more wins. Like, absolutely, you're a blue blood. Call them a new blood. Who cares? But I know that I think most people that I've come across are like, yeah, sure. But that's always like one of those debates, because it's you don't want to let people in the club, right? And so I've seen just some of that pushback on whether they're a blue blood or not. Very little, but I was just like, I don't think it's even a question when you've won that many titles.
Exactly. You don't have to have played in Chuck Taylor Converse All-Star original Kansas
like
shoes.
Pre-segregation titles. You don't have to have everything.
Yeah.
Hey, those high tops were fun.
Oh, hey, I'm just saying that like
still
those
rock
used to be
chucks.
the
Wooden
only
basket.
Yeah, the only basketball shoe there was for a long time were those. And the technology has advanced.
Which I can't imagine how they played in those shoes, because those are not the most comfortable pair of shoes in the world, much less to play basketball in.
No, they're not. Look, they are a fashion statement.
Yes.
That's what they are.
The high tops that I wore, the Converse,
yeah,
the sides of the high tops were basically as thin as paper.
Yeah, there's no ankle support.
And you had to,
like LeBron James, they've got like shoulder pads around your ankles practically, like they're designed to protect your ankles and your feet, and those were just, you needed something on your feet. Here you go. Here's a big block of sole and some cloth around it, and go for it. And I love Chucks, but it's much more of a style thing than it is
yes.
These are good to play basketball in.
No,
thing.
I do think that the pivot happened in 1992 when grunge happened, and then you're like, these are not really athletic shoes anymore. They've got
I've actually got a pretty sweet pair of Kurt Cobain edition Converse sneakers. I don't know how exclusive those were, but they're like plaid. They're black and gray plaid, and they've got like some of his drawings on them. And I bought them like probably 15 years ago, and I don't know how much they actually sold them or not. But yeah, those are some keepsakes for sure.
Yeah. All right, Brett Bingham saying, Craig, I considered UConn a blue blood the last 15 years.
I mean, right? I just, and it's social media too. I mean, you just come across various conversations and whatnot. But I saw a little bit of that over the weekend of just, is UConn a blue blood, or what are they considered? And I don't think it's even a question. I think you're spot on. You said it right.
Maybe they're a platinum blood,
right?
With what they've done. Brian Newbert covers Purdue. Zach Edey headed to the Final Four. Matt Painter gets Purdue back for the first time in 44 years. And they've had some good ones, including, though, last year's team that was eliminated early in the number 16 seed knocked him out. He's next. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. It is now the month of April, but Richard Carr has been celebrating these last few weeks their big 25th anniversary sales event, and they are continuing on with the celebrations, and there's a little bit of March Madness left, so if you haven't already, you need to take advantage of their great deals going on right now over at Richard Carr. They are the people that you can count on, and they have been during their entire 25-year run, celebrating this past month of March, 25 years with mad savings for the mad month of March, like thousands off a GMC Sierra SLT Crew Cab. Plus, with those GMC Sierras, qualified buyers can get 1.9% financing for 72 months, and if you're a military or first responder, you can also save an additional $500 on top of those previous savings options. And it being the, month of April, but still a little bit of March Madness carrying over. You can get a 65-inch 4K TV with a car or truck purchase during their anniversary event. Big savings on over 90 highly inspected used cars and trucks, plus the offers on new vehicles like the GMC Sierra SLT Crew Cab and a 65-inch 4K TV with a car or truck purchase during the anniversary sales event. And best part about it all is not just the customer service, but 100% credit approval is always their goal, as they say yes when others say no. So check out Richard Carr Motors, who has built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. Log on to richardcarr.com. That's KARR.com. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Samantha Duvall, TexasBeefHouse.com with me, David Smoak. And tell you what, you guys keep rolling along. You do have yet another date, correct, for an online and live auction?
Yes, our next online and live auction will be Thursday, April 25th.
We've discussed how this has been unique and how people have reacted to it. Has that momentum continued as you've done more?
Yes, it's kind of half and half. We'll have a good amount of people there that are from the area, and then we have probably 40% that we ship out, and everybody that I've delivered locally to has talked about how much fun they had, and they want to know when the next one's going to be. We've gotten great feedback from the people that we've shipped to. They're all just so excited about this event, and they can't wait for the next one to happen.
Premium grade East Texas beef. Customers don't have to go out and buy their beef. TexasBeefHouse.com, from their family and their ranch to your plate. TexasBeefHouse.com.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Our good friend Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jewelers here at 365 Sports. Now, Brad, people who watch and listen to our show know I'm a double-time customer for you, engagement ring and wedding band, and you guys do that great, but that's not all you do at Boozer's Jewelers.
Absolutely. And I always like to say, it's a new year. It's a great way to start the year out. Go through your old jewelry. Go through your wife's jewelry box. Go through anything you're maybe not wearing, something that's broken, something that you're not using. We do a massive amount of custom work. We can take your old jewelry, old diamonds, old watches, and we can convert it into something special for you and make a one-of-a-kind piece of jewelry. And if that's not something you're interested in, a great thing is we can turn that into cash. So we buy gold, we buy diamonds, we'll buy Rolex watches, any kind of heirloom jewelry, anything that's maybe passed down to you.
Boozer's Jewelers, where do they find you, Brad?
We're at 1025 North Valley Mills Drive, right on the corner of Lake Air Drive and Valley Mills with the big clock on the corner.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
We start this last hour today, 365 Sports, and we have hit two of the four schools that are in the Final Four. We'll have Alabama featured tomorrow, and Brian Newbert, blackandgold.com, joins us. Purdue is a part of it, and man, has to be a sense of relief. Brian joins us on 365 Sports. Is that what it is, Brian?
Yeah, gold and black.
What did I say?
Black and gold.
Oh, my God. Of course not. I'm sorry, Brian.
Yeah. It's. I think it was a sense of relief for a lot of people. I think it was, something Purdue has kind of carried itself all season long, expecting to do. I think what happened to them at the end of last year really sort of toughened them up and really kind of created a resolve in them that this season almost came off like more of a mission than like a season or an opportunity. And I think they've carried themselves in a very business-like manner. So I'm sure there was some relief, but at the same time, I think this is kind of what Purdue expected the whole season long, just because they held themselves to a really high standard and felt like they were good enough to do this, obviously were good enough to do this. I think what people don't realize about last season at Purdue was that wasn't really their opportunity. They were just way too good, way too fast. but they were still playing freshman guards at the end of the year. They were still kind of playing over their heads to a certain extent. They still didn't have the balance that you necessarily need to win in March. Now all those other pieces around Zach Edey, who were really advanced as freshmen, are now much more caught up than they were last year. So as soon as Zach Edey announced he was coming back to Purdue this year, this became Purdue's big opportunity. And I think a lot of people recognize it as such. Purdue carried itself all season long like this was almost sort of its quote-unquote destiny.
Brian, you mentioned the word mission there. The where it comes through to me is clearly at the end of games or when they start to put someone away. You can tell that there's like no question as to how the end of the game has to go. It was that way against Tennessee. Is that veteran maturity you're talking about, the guys are a year older, and look, Zach Edey knows that, look, he's got this time to make it work, or Purdue's not in the Final Four, and they just get so locked in.
Yeah, they're extremely close. I mean, they played all season long together with the majority of this group. They have a couple of new guys this year that have really completed them, but I think people underestimate the value of guys playing together for an extended period of time, and that's not really the direction college basketball is headed in right now. You have so many teams bringing in new transfers every year, and Purdue is banked on continuity. And I think when things have gotten kind of hairy for them at the end of games, I think that continuity really shows up because all those guys out there kind of trust one another. They all sort of share a brain, and they all fall back on their past experiences together. And there really hasn't been anything that this group hasn't been through together. I mean, they've lost in the worst manner imaginable in the NCAA tournament. They've won Big Ten titles. They've won the Maui Invitational. They won the PK 85 last year. They've beaten blue blood after blue blood after blue blood. They played road games in the Big Ten, which is no joke. They've won most of them, and they've just been through everything together. And I think that comfort with one another, that trust in one another really sort of shows up at the end of these games. A couple weeks ago, Purdue played at Illinois late in the regular season on Illinois Senior Day. A very, shall I say, toxic environment. And that was a tie game against a team that was playing, damn near as well as any team in the country. A really, really hostile environment. And Purdue really kind of got itself together at the end, pulled away, and won that game. And it's just the sort of thing you don't see teams that don't really come together at the right time do. They're just really mature. They're really tough. And I think everything they went through last season, particularly that FDU loss, really sort of toughened them up. I don't think there's anything that really kind of gets to them. They're extremely poised. They're extremely businesslike. They don't get rattled. They fell behind 11 points in the first half yesterday against Tennessee and responded with a 15-0 run. A lot of teams would have gotten shook there and things would have gone sideways on them. That's not what this team has done all year long. They've just been really, really, really comfortable in those situations and not panicked one bit.
Brian, we see Zach Edey. People see him. He's 7'4", so of course they expect everything from him. And then yesterday, 40 points in the win, and man, he's taken this program on his back, and that's not always easy to do. What kind of person is he? Is he? Because if people look at a guy that tall, they think he's probably quiet and shy. Who is Zach Edey?
He's a really laid-back, kind of happy kid, but he's also way more competitive than I think people realize. His effort is really good. His work ethic is really good. His consistency is off the charts. He doesn't really have off games. He doesn't really have bad games. And even when he does have a game that's not as good as his other games, it's still like 20 and 14. He's just unbelievably consistent. And I think that that trickles down to this whole team. I think his competitive nature has really trickled down to this whole team too. The physical tone he sets in games really, really affects every game he plays in. Obviously, he commands a lot of attention, draws a lot of contact, things like that. But he sort of embraces it. It doesn't bother him anymore the way it used to. I mean, I'm so tired after 4 years of him of writing about the officiating and arguing with people about the officiating after every game. But he does get fouled, like probably 5 times more than it gets called. And it used to get to him. It used to really rattle him, and he used to lose his cool periodically. He grew out of that probably halfway through last year, and just the poise he shows out there has been really a big part of what has made Purdue really good, on top of the relentless effort, the work ethic, the competitiveness, things like that. He's a great teammate. He doesn't like talking about himself. He uses his social media channels to promote teammates for awards and things like that. And he's just, I don't think Purdue could ask any more of him as a person, as a player, than what they've gotten out of him here the last 2 years especially, but since the beginning of his Purdue career, at the start of 2020. So it just almost one of those too good to be true sorts of guys.
So we know about the history of Purdue, first time since 1980. The constant, heartbreaking with Gene Cady, and I love watching him coach. Painter played there at Purdue, was named like an associate head coach for the first year. Didn't go real well, but he and Quanzo Martin coached together on that staff. What does this mean to a guy that played there? Because sometimes going back to your alma mater does not always work.
Yeah, no, it's kind of meant the world to him. He came back. He was the head coach at Southern Illinois for 1 year. He replaced Bruce Weber at Southern Illinois, who was the longtime Gene Cady assistant. Bruce brought Painter with him when he got the SIU job. And then after 1 year as head coach, Purdue decided it was going to go in a different direction with Gene Cady. He wasn't fired, but they weren't going to give him, a contract into perpetuity. He was going to retire. So they brought in Painter as an associate head coach for a year with the plan of him taking over after 1 year. Not a lot of guys would have signed up for that. Not a lot of schools would have done that sort of thing. It worked out beautifully for Purdue. I can't not say there wasn't a little bit of luck involved, that they happened to get the perfect guy at the perfect time who was willing to do something like this. But it has worked out beautifully. Painter is really deferential to Cady. He loves the guy. Kind of talks about him like he's a second father, and really deflects a lot of credit to the people who sort of came before him at Purdue, notably Gene Cady, notably a lot of his former teammates, a lot of the players who signed up to play for him at Purdue when Purdue was bad, which they were in the early days because they just didn't have a lot of players. And a lot of their best players were hurt when Painter took over. It was really kind of a total rebuild sort of situation. So they've come a long way since then, and he's built this thing back up into something that's even kind of exceeded what it was back in its glory days there in the 80s and 90s. And but he's always pointing to the past. He's always bringing people back. He's always talking to his players about the people at Purdue came before them and how much that matters. And he's really trying to keep a really tight circle. Cady's always around. He comes back up here at the end of every year, travels with them in the NCAA tournament. He's on the phone with Painter, probably more than Painter has time to chat with him all the time because Gene likes to talk on the phone. But no, it's a very tight knit kind of basketball quote unquote family at Purdue, and Gene's sort of becoming the cool grandfather.
I've noticed that he has eschewed the comb over, which I find heartbreaking, but still, it's probably a better look for him overall. Brian,
talking about Katie?
Yeah, David Letterman used to make fun of him all the time for the comb over. It was pretty legendary. What would it mean to the Purdue fan base like to get this done, especially considering they're probably going to have to go through a team like UConn to do it?
It would mean a lot. I think Purdue getting the Final Four is a really big deal. I don't think there's been a school and a school's following that's been more Final Four hungry in college basketball than Purdue, because it had been so long and Purdue had gotten so close so many times. They've had some horrific luck over the years with the way they lost to Virginia, with the way Isaac Haas broke his elbow in 2017 in the NCAA tournament when Purdue had a legitimate shot to be a Final Four team. The two Robbie Hummel knee injuries, those were two Final Four caliber teams that never got a chance to actually compete at that level because one of their most important players, if not the most important player, got hurt at the wrong time. Not that there's ever a right time, but Purdue's just had some really, really heartbreaking things outside its control. And I think it just meant the world to them to get to the Final Four. But I think, too, that this is a team capable of doing more. The thing about this Purdue team this year is every game they've lost, there were only 4 of them, but they were all directly tied to turnovers. And those turnovers were all probably more about Purdue just kind of losing its focus, not concentrating the way they ought to, as opposed to the defense being better than them. I don't think there's been a game this season where Purdue's best performance, best effort, best version of itself hasn't been enough. And I think Purdue should stack up pretty well with NC State. Now, I think 9 teams in a row have probably said that about NC State, but so you obviously don't want to look past them. They're kind of riding a heater here. But if it gets down to Purdue and UConn, the two seem to be on a collision course here. If Purdue plays its best version of itself, that has never not been enough this season. And obviously UConn is incredible, but Purdue's pretty damn good too. And that would be a hell of a college basketball game. I would tell you that. And I would not bet against either of them. I would not bet on either of them, and I would not bet against either of them.
This just came into my head. Brian, first of all, thanks for your time. Purdue Insider with us on 365 Sports. What is Rick Mount doing? That kind of shows my age. I remember he was a hell of a player in the ABA, but I remember Purdue. I said, Gene Katie, what is Rick Mount doing these days? Do you know?
He is living in his hometown of Lebanon, Indiana. And he is I'm sure still shooting a couple thousand jump shots every day. I know he was for a while there. He's done a lot of instructional work with young players. Other than that, I can't claim to be a Rick Mount expert these days. I've talked to the man once in my life. Yeah.
For those that don't know, he was an All-American at Purdue back in the day, back in the late 60s, and then went into the ABA and was a hell of a player for the ABA during those early years too. But I wasn't expecting too much. But that's cool that he's hanging around. By the way, I did check to make sure I didn't ask about a guy that was no longer with us, but he is. That's good that he's in Lebanon. That's cool.
Yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon.
Great shape. Yep.
He's too stubborn.
He is stubborn. He was a hard-nosed dude, man, back in the day.
Yeah.
All right, what's your schedule? When do you leave? When do you go to Arizona?
Well, I'm going down there Wednesday, and then Thursday is all the pregame media stuff, and then Friday's the game, right?
Saturday's the game.
Okay, so I think there's media stuff Thursday and Friday.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and then the game's Saturday. That kind of shows you what my last 24 hours have been like. I don't even know when the game is.
Tell everybody how much. Tell everybody what your schedule was like when you actually went to bed, if you did, and when you woke up initially. When I and others probably started texting you.
Yeah, so I started. I planned my trip very poorly. I was thinking that a 2:20 game, I could get out of there by 7 o'clock and be home by here in West Lafayette after a 4-hour drive at a reasonable hour. And then I didn't count on waiting an hour for post-game stuff to start and then having to worry about more video because of all the celebration stuff that we need to get on the internet nowadays. So I didn't write a word before they kicked us out of Little Caesars Arena. So I get in my car, I start driving. It's 10 o'clock at night, whatever it is. There's nowhere to stop in Detroit to work after we'd been asked to leave the arena. So I just decided I was going to spend the night in Fort Wayne. So I made a hotel reservation in Fort Wayne, finished my work, went to bed at about 4 o'clock this morning. Wanted to get home, so I got up at 9, was on the road. Shortly thereafter, stopped to do a little more work. And then I got home and I went to bed, and I woke up about 15 minutes ago. So you probably did not get the most cognitively sharp version of myself. So I apologize for that. But
you were great, man.
Yeah.
You were great, Brian. Appreciate
that's kind of it.
All right, get some sleep. Thank you very much. Brian Newbert, again, covers Purdue with us on 365 Sports. We've had him on once before, and back when football, but he covers the men's basketball team. Appreciate that. All right, so we were talking before the show, or at some point during the show, about us being tired because both of you, Garrett, Emery, I guess, Paul, you guys got up real early on, Thursday morning for Big 12 Pro Day. Craig got up early. I drove up and stayed at a hotel about 5 miles away from the Star in Frisco for that, so I got at least some sleep. And we were talking about how when we got home, we all just passed out. It was pretty late, long day. And here's Brian basically getting no sleep, and we appreciate his time.
We've been there. I mean, I know exactly how he feels of, getting on a plane and then having to do stuff, we were tired. I thought we were tired on Friday, but no, that's not like we had a 4-hour round trip because you had about 30 minutes on it when you go to Frisco. So, and a long day in the middle of which was by normal standards of like a hectic Super Bowl day.
Yeah. That's what it was.
It was
like
about
a Radio Row.
Yeah, it was like a Tuesday on Radio Row. That's what I would compare it to. Yeah. Busy, but not like insane.
And he wouldn't trade it for anything. So
absolutely no.
I mean, he's tired, but he would not trade it for anything. Being able to cover a team and see the journey that they're going on right now, that's what you want. You don't cover teams to want them to lose and have these miserable types of headlines and stories to tell when they're winning, whoever they may be in this case or any other case is, when teams are winning, you'll be tired and you'll have a lot longer of a season than you expected, but it's always well worth it and always a lot of fun, and you can catch up on sleep later on. But, what a ride it's been, and still a little bit of a ways to go, potentially as well.
We would go cover a Super Bowl, and if we stayed through the weekend, and I would actually at times – book the earliest flight on Monday after the Super Bowl, and that can be a night that doesn't end. Not because if you do anything after the game, it's just you never leave the stadium, and then you get a shuttle, and then we would book like a 6, 7, 8 o'clock flight because you wanted to get there early enough to get the hell away from the crazy at the airport, and this is even prior to 9/11. And I remember one time we were in Miami, and I booked a flight, and my staff at the time, they were furious.
Yeah, that was dumb. That was dumb. It was dumb. I don't care. I'll say it even now. It was the pouring, soaking, rainy Super Bowl.
Tony Dungy against Lovie Smith, right?
It poured rain the entire Super Bowl in Miami, which, is not supposed to. I mean, you get rain down in Florida, but you weren't expecting that for the Super Bowl, and it was torrential rains. And, soaking wet leaving the stadium, and turn right around, went to the hotel for like maybe all of an hour, and turned right around, went straight to the airport, which had no businesses open, mind you, nothing around it to go to, and so nowhere to go. Like, you just sat there, couldn't go get a drink anywhere, couldn't get a burger, just sat there soaking wet in the airport for 5 hours. But hey, we were early. We beat the traffic, I guess. But that was not miserable. A good memory for me.
That was bad.
That was not a good memory for me.
That decision was awful. And we were, that's when you don't sleep well and you feel like and you can't even get like comfortable, and the chairs are lying on the floor with a backpack under your neck.
That's not where you're supposed to sleep.
I know.
It's the airport. It's not designed for you to get there early and get some rest.
One time we had a travel agent do some stuff for us in Phoenix, and she rented us a car in one place, and we had to go to another.
We flew into Phoenix, and we had to drive to Tucson, or we had to go to
Mesa.
Mesa.
To get the car, or we flew into Mesa, and we had to go to Phoenix to get the car. We had to take an Uber or something. We had to get something because we got there. When we got to Mesa, the rental car place was closed, and there was a guy there, and we were like, well, can you just give us a car? And he's like, I already shut it down. Like, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah,
there's nothing I can do.
We had to go to Phoenix Airport and get the car. But that was probably, was that to go to Rangers training camp?
Yeah,
At least that's about as cool and relaxing as you could possibly get. That's it right there. All right, 5:30, 365 Sports. We still have Paul's Top 5 around the corner, and a couple of more nuggets, including what the hell's going on with Rashee Rice of the Kansas City Chiefs, and that story and more. This is 365 Sports. All right, Garrett, flash up a couple of pictures. Got a call from Ted Teague. This is a Challenger. It is burnt orange, Sandra Green, Paxton, UT Parking would slobber all over this thing to get in it, okay? Burnt orange. It absolutely is burnt orange.
They call it go-go mango, but that's just how
it's burnt orange.
That's how you got in it.
And then Paul has this Charger. Green, beautiful.
A little gold trim there, so Baylor fans would like that. This thing, honestly,
Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Go ahead.
I don't think we would be described as muscle car guys.
No,
Smokey. That's
not whatsoever.
It's not who we are. Although 3 days I've been driving this thing, and I'm almost a muscle car guy. Like it's like it's taken a hold of me, and Ted's going to have to wrestle this thing away because it rides so amazingly smooth. It is so fast, and I'm not fast.
Really?
Yeah, I took it down.
Yeah, because you're conservative as hell.
I took it down. I took it down to the old Austin Autobahn, like I like to call it.
Where you can go 90?
Where you can go 85, 90. And it just, I have a great Jeep Cherokee that I've had for a few years. When you go 85 in that, you feel like you're going 85. When you go 85 in this thing, you feel like you're just like floating. It just goes, I've got to get past this truck. And I just tap the accelerator. Boom. And then I'm past it. I felt like the Men in Black. When they hit it was great. It's a fantastic car.
The car almost goes into a Matrix mode.
Oh, it's great.
What I've learned about this, and I drove the Challenger. These are Scat Pack Plus. Ted Teague called us, said, hey, can you guys drive these around for a few miles? I still have to put like another 100 miles on mine and then turn it back in. But drove to Tyler and back with this. And what I learned, or even on the road coming to the studio this afternoon, when you drive that kind of car, everybody that has a pretty nice car that feels like theirs badass too, they want to rev their engine up next to you, or they want to like maybe bum, 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 bum. Mm-hmm. And I'm a competitive guy. That's all there is to it.
I'm not when it does that, but I had a nice little drive. I can't wait to drive it more. And it's been cool. Like, my neighbors hear me coming.
Oh, no, they do. And it's kind of like that, because there's a guy that used to live where I live in a condo that had one of these cars. Like, in the morning, he'd crank it up, and like he would run it for about 5 minutes, and everybody would wake up. Bottom line is there's some great deals to start the month of April. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Paul with that Charger. Me with the Challenger. 2023 Dodge Challenger. Yes, they have Ram trucks, and they have all what you need when it comes to Jeep. Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation. Thank you for calling your local Marco's Pizza. We're turning up the heat with our new Reaper Cheesy Bread. Fresh, house-made dough is topped with a spicy cheese blend infused with jalapeno, habanero, and Carolina Reaper peppers. At only $5.99, this limited-time product is a hot deal. Add it to your order while you can. A Marco's team member will be with you shortly.
Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it, and that offer on the Reaper Cheesy Bread is available right now at any of the 5 Marco's Pizza locations in Waco, including Belmead, China Spring, Robinson, Woodway, and Hewitt. Order online at marcos.com. Call for a pickup or delivery. Marco's Pizza is turning up the heat with their all-new Reaper Cheesy Bread with fresh, hot, house-made dough topped with a spicy cheese blend infused with jalapeno, habanero, and Carolina Reaper peppers, and only $5.99 and for a limited time only. Marco's Pizza, the fastest-growing pizza brand in America, 5 locations in Waco, and the new Reaper Cheesy Bread. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is 365 Sports.
The Sikkim 365 app is brought to you by Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
All right, so this is a story that started popping over the weekend. Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice investigation of a major accident. I just saw where his agent said that he is cooperating with authorities, his lawyer, cooperating with Dallas police. Now, I don't know if you saw the video and you had to make sure there's a couple of videos that were like attempting to say that that was Rashee Rice after the accident in Dallas on 75. It wasn't, but there was video and he and others getting out of the car. A lot of speculation about why they were trying to, but they left the scene. And it was a Lamborghini and also the car that Rice was driving. And they were racing. And thank God nobody was hurt bad enough or there was no horrible situation like Ruggs. But Rashee Rice right now, definitely the NFL will want to have a discussion with him.
I think he's going to have some sort of suspension. He's very, very, very lucky that he and nobody was severely hurt in this accident. And it's reckless and irresponsible. Don't know what he's thinking, but the Chiefs are probably going to be without Rashee Rice for a few games this year, you would think, given that, especially when you've got the Henry Ruggs situation that happened and ended his career.
Mm-hmm. And somebody died?
Yeah, absolutely. He's very, very lucky.
In other news, Rashee Rice announces that he is going to play for Georgia next season.
Oh, my God. Brum-bum.
Yeah, no, I had to do that. Just stupid. The video pisses me off, quite frankly, as just a human being to see him and whoever else was involved, the other car involved, just ramming into people, causing a whole entire ordeal and wreck that could have very well have killed somebody. And like you said, fortunately, it did not. And then just be walking down the side of the road, like a whole crew of folks just walking down the side of the road, couldn't be bothered to stick around and, be there and make sure that everybody was okay. I don't know. I don't know all the details other than what we've all seen, which is just stupid-ass driving, which there's far too much of nowadays. And so it's just not a surprise, though, that, this just is a regular occurrence, some kind of vehicle incident that we're talking about. You're right, Henry Ruggs, that was absolutely awful. Like a woman and her dog were burned alive inside of that car because of Henry Ruggs' selfish, stupid decisions. And luckily, nothing to that extent happened here. But just in general, NFL player or, a Dodge Charger driver or pickup driver or whatever the case may be, just, man, people are so selfish on the roadways these days. It's like everybody's just in a hurry to be where they've got to be and just no regard for anybody else. And there was no regard for anybody if you watch the video. I mean, these two, it's not like it was clear traffic. There are cars everywhere, and they're just zooming on along, slamming into the back of folks. So, and then just...
It was 6:20 on a Saturday evening.
It was busy. It was busy.
On 75,
right,
which is on the north side that goes through Dallas.
So what they were thinking in the first place, I can't even fathom, like how you even thought that was, racing or whatever you were trying to accomplish. I don't know. I don't want to live in the dumb mind of people making those dumb decisions. So I'm glad that he's cooperating. That's the main thing. But I definitely raise an eyebrow when you just walk off from something like that. That's just not what you're supposed to do. That's not normal behavior or what we as humans, like our human contract, right? That's not what you do. And so hopefully he's appropriately punished if he needs to be punished in a certain way. And if not, and he's getting all the headlines because he's Rashee Rice, then whoever's responsible, I hope they get their just due and hopefully to the point where they don't make that kind of a decision again, and then it happens again, and we get a Henry Ruggs type of situation.
All right, here's the part that, Paul, you had to stop me for a second. I'm sitting there going, they got out of the car, they're walking away, what are they trying to... And then what did you say about his car?
It's got a license plate on it. Like, why are you leaving?
That's his car.
I mean, it's his car.
Registered, the VIN number, all of that, yeah.
That's why,
I guess you can say that you weren't driving, maybe, is what you're trying to do. I don't know.
Okay, maybe he wasn't, and maybe because there were 4 people.
You're not supposed to leave the scene of a crime.
No, but I'm saying if he leaves and they can't prove that he was the driver, then that gets him out of trouble. Because you know how it is. There's fall guys for pro athletes and for celebrities. And so, I don't know if he's got that kind of, people around him that he would have a fall guy. But I guess maybe if he was driving, he's like, I can't be seen that I was the driver. Then that's why you walk away. I don't know. I wouldn't have done that, obviously. So who knows, really. But he's cooperating. So I'm sure we'll hear, what the real deal was sooner rather than later. And, man, again, just hope he learned a valuable lesson here because it could have been so much worse.
All right, one other thing about this is that I saw the video, and again, there's a lot of facts that we don't have, but I saw the video, and I actually saw people trying to blame whatever the white car that was on what would be the inside lane where the Corvette came up behind it, which the Corvette came up behind it, appeared to nudge the white car into the next lane with the Lamborghini, and how someone wasn't killed in this thing on 75 in the middle of the evening. All of them are lucky. Everybody, even those that weren't guilty of doing anything wrong other than driving, was just nuts. It was almost as if the Corvette was trying to hit that little poof through a keyhole, and there was not enough room for a keyhole.
I mean, we don't need to break this down like it's the Super Bowl, but there was a car in the left lane just minding its business, and then all of a sudden 2 cars basically in the same lane together. I don't know what they were trying to do because neither one of them was going to get around that one. The car on the left seemed like he was trying to get into the, what would you even call that?
What is the road that's not a part of the
express lane?
Yeah, no. It's not part of the road. It's like the little space in between the barrier and the road. Whatever that is, whatever that's called.
The
it's
embankment?
Huh?
The embankment?
Yeah, I guess the embankment. That little sliver, they were trying to go left. There's not enough room. So, I don't know what they were thinking. I guess they didn't know that car was ahead of them. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was bad.
So there's that, and not sure what's going to come out of it, but... leaving the scene of the crime, driving dangerous, a lot of things are going to happen. We'll see what the NFL does, mainly because it was stupid. And we'll see. And by the way, Alan's saying that Henry Ruggs was driving a Corvette, too. So it's
that was so bad. That was so bad. And I just remember reading the details about the woman and her dog, and just I wish I would not have read the details of that one. And I hope Henry Ruggs is doing okay for himself and learning his lesson and all of that.
I saw Saban talking about him and how he's come back. And again, you hear about, letting other people know you hope it's for real. But I saw Saban discuss, he actually used Henry Rugg as an example
Yeah.
to some of the people, with some of the players, student athletes in the Alabama program.
Yeah, I mean, they try to use it as a learning tool for, hey, this guy was young guy in the NFL making millions of dollars in Las Vegas, and obviously has a really nice car and everything seemingly going for him, and just ruined it all in the span of a few minutes and just with a dumb decision. And that goes for whether you're an NFL player or just anybody in everyday life. This is not just a life lesson for NFL players. It's a life lesson for anybody of
Humans.
like, don't be a moron speeding through Dallas traffic, racing somebody when there's, plenty of cars in your way. So yeah, that Henry Ruggs situation, that's the one that you're counting your lucky stars that it's not that extreme, but you're playing with fire. No pun intended there. Gosh, well, let me stop talking about all this.
All right.
But
Yeah,
I hate that. I hate dumb decisions like that, and I'm just glad that everybody's okay.
Before we get to the top 5, Kenny Dillingham, Arizona State football coach, put out a note. I happened to grab this. Did you get that, Garrett? Okay. He said it's hard to spread the message, but former ASU players, every practice is open to you. We practiced Tuesday, Thursday, gave the time in the morning, Saturday in the morning. We would love to see more former players out and involved. Open invitation, Sun Devil for life. Activate the Valley. Kenny Dillingham trying to get former Sun Devil players at Arizona State to come to practices to kind of open that pipeline back up.
Does that include Jaden Daniels, Johnny Wilson, and Ricky Pearsall?
Who was it we spoke to at the
for some
the
guys
pro
it
day?
does. Yeah. It does.
Who was it at pro day? Was it Beanie Bailey? When he had been to
Bishop.
3 different teams?
Yeah.
And I said, so who do you say when you get announced in an NFL game if that opportunity comes? And he goes, West Virginia.
Yeah.
But, man, we had a great time at pro day. It was a long day, but it was a great day.
Are you confusing it with Beetle Bailey? Is that where the Beanie Bishop?
Beanie Bishop. You said Beanie Bailey.
I'm just asking if that's where the.
There's no proof I said it that way.
It's okay. Do we need to get you like a sweater to put on?
A little drool cup.
Yeah, just.
Hey.
I mean, they've got a number. I mean, Brandon Ayuk's a former Sun Devil that's in the pros, and there's various other guys. He's the one that immediately comes to mind, though, and that's just common sense when you're a head coach trying to build up a program, is to get the pros involved. I mean, Matt Rule did that here at Baylor. I'm sure he's doing that in Lincoln. Every coach, if you've got some NFL guys that can be appealing to possible recruits or just to bring attention to the program, or eventually donations or what have you, you want them around. You want to build up that family atmosphere and make being a Sun Devil or insert team name here something that people are proud of and want to be a part of. And so, I think that we saw that firsthand here at Baylor with Matt Rule in particular. And even Browse before that, he had a lot of guys that would come back and be involved in as far as like just working out on campus and things like that. So I think that's probably status quo pretty much everywhere. And I think it's just a smart move. It's a smart thing to do, and excited to see the Sun Devils in the Big 12 and what they're capable of, because I know at least early on there's not big expectations for them in terms of competing for the Big 12 championship. They're overshadowed by Dion in Boulder, not because of the team necessarily, but just the personality and the story that is. Obviously, Arizona, even though they've lost their head coach, they've got some stars, and they've got a coach coming in Brent Brennan that people feel like can just pick the ball up from Jed Fish and continue rolling with it. And then Utah speaks for itself with what they've done. So Arizona State's kind of that odd program out in terms of having a whole lot of momentum or things that sort of draw you to them. But
I think they're a sleeping giant that's asleep at Arizona State. It's a massive school, incredible student body, beautiful scenery, views, all of that. Sun Devil Stadium. I think but it's been a long time.
But how long has it been a sleeping giant?
It's in hibernation. It has. I just feel like they didn't know whether or not they can wake up or not. I don't know.
Fee, fi, fo, fum in that if they are. Right. I mean, they got to get to it because when we were there, we went to that Burt Kreischer show.
That's when my dad got his master's degree. Yeah.
The first thing we were like, how do you suck at anything if this is your campus? You shouldn't be bad. And I'm sure that's what Kenny Dillingham says. How is this? And part of it is you have an administration that doesn't care as much, and they're focused on other things, and they just kind of, it feels like they were, and of course now they have They're going to have new AD and all those different things. So they were just kind of floating through. But now they have a huge opportunity, especially in a new conference where you have everybody's got a fresh start.
Unbelievable weather. Really, really would appear to be, unless we're being fooled, incredible facilities.
I think Sun Devil Stadium could probably use a
campus
little
is probably spread out
coat of
quite
paint,
a bit.
but yeah.
Yeah, no, it can be. It used to host Super Bowls and stuff.
I don't know exactly about their facilities because I haven't seen them, I guess, as recently as you guys. But, I mean, I think just location-wise, they're in a good spot. There's a lot of talent in Arizona, probably more than there's ever been in the state of Arizona now at this point. They've got a little bit of history. And I think, this is a fresh start, and it might be a good thing for them and a great launching point to try to be that consistent program that people feel like they have the ability to be. But it's going to be easier said than done. I mean, it's a crowded room, and everybody's jockeying for the same spot, and no different than when they were in the Pac, but it's new territory. It's not the comfort of the California schools and all that you've been so familiar with all these years. So, it's still kind of hard to wrap your head around that here pretty soon, or even now, we're going to be talking about those schools in the Big 12 and how they interact with the K-States and the TCUs of the world. It's interesting territory.
Paul, is there a lot of talent on the campus at Arizona State?
I mean, I'll save that for someone who's single.
You told me it's one of the top 2 or 3 talent-based campuses in America.
I'll just tell you that I went to one that's up in that. And it is the
FSU of the
it can hang
of the West.
Well, when I used to read Playboy for the articles, Arizona State always had a really great reputation.
Yeah, so it can hang. Yeah. It certainly.
It's a party.
Can hang.
It's one of the. Yeah, it's a party school.
But it's also now an AAU school, like all these other things.
There's a lot of attractive, parts of Arizona State that could bode well for them in the future. But as you see, without good leadership, it doesn't matter. And they have not had good leadership as of late, and now hopefully they've corrected that and they can maximize it. But at the same time, there's probably somebody watching going, oh, I heard about the Arizona State sleeping giant, that I heard that 30 years ago, and the giant never woke up. But maybe, new conference, new era of college sports, new leadership, and the second year of Kenny Dillingham will get this ball rolling, but they've certainly got potential. I don't think anybody can deny that. It's just can they maximize that potential? But they're going to be one of a vast amount of interesting stories with this new configuration of the Big 12 Conference.
All right, Paul Catalina and the top 5.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Garrett, put up the picture of those bowls that Smokey saw.
No. So Craig and I were both in Tyler over the weekend, and I went out. I'm driving around, getting into town on Friday, and something just made me realize I'm not that far from Aaron Duvall and their incredible ranch that lived like 5 miles from where I stayed with my friend Eric. And so I called them or texted him. I said, can I come by? And I did. This is the land. You can see the bottom picture is a wider shot. Those are just some of the Angus bulls. And then I was driving that Challenger and probably really annoying the bulls because of that sound. But those are 2 that were looking at me that said, if you get any closer, these are some alphas. And then Samantha Duvall, who lives on that part of it, you can see her house in the background, drove over like 100 or 200 yards behind me, and that's where the store is, where they have their freezer. Gave me a couple of packages of New York strip, some summer sausage. I gave them to Eric. That place, what an incredible weekend. I met Tyler. I saw again Dr. Duvall and his great family and staff, and Samantha.
I don't know for a fact, but look, that cow could be, those cattle could be yours. But those steaks could be on your table from those right there.
Go to TexasBeefHouse.com.
Yeah,
don't forget now the online auction coming up on April 25th.
I'm not sure if it's going to be those 2, but eventually it will.
Very impressive.
So eventually those guys are going to be on a grill somewhere. Top 5 Final Four storylines. Number 5. Can Purdue pull a UVA and lose to a 16 seed and then come in and win this thing? You heard it earlier from Brian Newbert. They're on a mission. They're an absolute mission to do that. And in the world of fake sports chips on your shoulder, and I will say this, Baylor could have had one legitimately from the WAPO article. LSU couldn't have, and then LSU had one from the LA Times article, which was legitimate.
Yeah.
But
did we even know there was an LA Times article? Was that known when we talked about this last week?
No, that was just out of the blue. And golly, that was.
So she really said about the WAPO, what she should have been saying about the LA Times to begin with, but we
Probably,
didn't know there was an LA Times article.
Yeah.
So anyways.
So anyway, but a legitimate chip on your shoulder in sports is quite often hard to find because a lot of times they're made up.
It's hard to hear Georgia Bulldogs going, they doubted us all the way here. Like you were the 2-1 favorites to win the entire thing.
Zach Edey kind of did that.
Yeah, but
I overlooked.
But this was something that happened to them a year ago and fueled them on their way of being only the second team to lose to a 16 seed and to have to go out there and do that and carry that. They had a legit chip on their shoulder, and they've pulled it off there in the Final Four.
It was a 40-plus year chip, but the one last year, the 16 seed.
Well, I mean, that just puts a little more weight on it.
Fairleigh Dickinson?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they look good now. It's Edey's the dude, but they've got some others, man. They got guys who can handle the rock and really do take care of the ball, and they are that's going to be they're going to be a tough out.
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely got a legitimate reason to have a chip on their shoulder. Not that they were disrespected, but just having that driving factor to go from being embarrassed to being kings of the mountain. And it would be a big deal for Purdue because they've got a basketball national title, but they only one they've won in their history was in 1932. So that is a whole new era a whole different era of college sports and nothing seemingly like what we have now. I mean, outside of that, they've got 5 national titles in that school's history as far as team sports go. Men's basketball in 32, men's golf in 61, women's basketball in 99, women's golf in 2010, and then cheerleading in 2018. So this would be a massive deal for that program, just in general, but for the school as well, as far as accomplishments go. A basketball title always is, but you know what I mean.
The football team has always been just on the edge, but not quite. Braum was doing well, Drew Brees, but yeah, they've been left behind. They have.
Number 4. Who is the biggest matchup nightmare? I think I meant for UConn, but who is the biggest matchup nightmare? Like, what's going to happen? Who? I guess maybe individual player.
Why don't we do this individually?
Yeah, individually. Who's the biggest?
Is it Edey
Is it Burns? Is it Klingon? Is it one of those guards at Alabama that just bomb threes? I mean, is it Tristan Newton? Who is it? Who's the one dude in this thing you don't want to take?
It's got to be Edey.
Yeah.
Although Burns fools the hell out of a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're fooled by him and you don't know him by now, you're not watching the games. He is a freaking beast of what he does, and he's very nimble, as we said. What did you call him? Ballerina?
The beefy ballerina.
Yeah, and a great touch, too.
Yeah. I want to clarify, too, on Purdue's title. That was not NCAA back in 1932. So this would be their first, NCAA men's basketball national championship. So it would be a massive deal for them, especially after the gut punch previously. But, I had a lot of fun listening to the commentary. I guess it would have been Westwood 1, huh? Doing the tournament
radio,
games.
Yep.
And I caught the NC State game, the end of that, because I had to be on the road. But just the thrill in the announcers' voices talking about DJ Burns and just the multiple and ones at the end of the game that just helped seal it away, hitting big shots to continue to keep their lead. About 10 points there, not letting Duke cut too deep into it and get on that run to where maybe pulling an upset. So yeah, he's a lot of fun to watch, and he's certainly been one of the stars of this tournament so far.
I want to bring up a moment in that game that, to me, I did not understand it. I'm not a guy that likes to go into the officiating, whatever, but there was a moment when NC State was up 8, and it was on the Duke side, underneath the Duke basket, and there was like a tip ball that went up above the board, hit the shot clock, and it was obviously off Duke. Duke got possession of the ball, and I was surprised that with a possession-type play, they didn't go to the replay. And they didn't. And I guess it wasn't a reviewable play at that particular moment. Maybe it's a timeline deal. But they didn't blink. Duke, Cates got a couple of, got a technical foul for getting outside the box. They hit both free throws, and NC State did not blink. I thought that was a critical time during the game.
Yep, that was the Duke call. But they don't get as many now that Coach K is gone.
They don't get as many as Kansas, but it was a Duke call.
There was the Duke call. Number 3, can Alabama score enough? Because that's what they're going to have to do. They can maybe not score on, say, like 15% of their possessions. Maybe 20. Like, they have to.
What did Rob say? They have to hit 20-something threes out of 50.
They've got to hit as many threes. They've got to score. Can they do that? Man, that's going to be tough. But if there's a team that can, it is Nate Oates and
I tell you
Alabama. But
who are they playing? I forgot who it was. Was it North Carolina? I can't remember who it was, but they just don't care what the score is. They do. Their basketball IQ is through the roof, but they don't. They just play, and they're fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. They are very fun to watch. Number 2, can anyone really stop UConn? Can anyone really do it? Like, are we looking at a team that might be...
Well, as long as you don't give up a 30-0 run.
Are we looking at like a 2001 Miami of basketball here, where they're just rolling through a Georgia, just rolling through people?
Yeah.
Like those teams, it is...
I mean, I see that and I understand that, but I also think, man, we're crowning them 2 games early.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No.
I'm already seeing, are they the greatest team of all time? You know, those kind of things. Like, they're just in the Final Four.
Let's wait till they get to it, because people...
Yeah.
I even saw it a couple years ago where people still rated the Gonzaga 21 team above the Baylor 21 team. And like, stupid. I was like, well, I mean, I would think.
If only they met.
I even said the author of the tweet, who was a basketball writer, said, well, I'm really grading it on this. I'm like, yeah, but they played each other and Baylor throttled them.
This is when the nerds have taken over too much of sports, is when you're talking. No, I know that they played in the national title game and it was clearly one-sided and they met face-to-face. But I'm more talking about the way. No, shut up, dude. They played. They played head-to-head. And you can't
beat off of him.
Yeah, you need to calm down over there. But you're right. They did, and they left no doubt. And so I'm sorry, but yeah, that's ridiculous. I don't care what category you're talking about, unless it's biggest disappointments in a national title game that was supposed to be ultra competitive. But no, you know, they are a great team. There is no doubt about that. The dominance that they've displayed at times is certainly good fodder for the all-timer conversation, but I don't know. I'm just one of those of like, can we actually see them accomplish that and then talk about whether they're the greatest of all time? But Paul, to your point, they're certainly putting themselves firmly in that conversation. They've just got to win 2 more games.
No, I have not crowned them, but I'm saying, I'm
saying people in general.
That's what I'm saying. Like, can anyone stop them? And if not, are we looking at, you know, a team that's one of the way that they have dominated this tournament, one of the all-time great teams that you would stack up against anybody. At number 1, NC State Cinderella. My gosh, what a great story. I mean,
Had you ever heard of DJ Burns prior to the tournament?
I mean, yeah, because I watched a little bit of ACC. I watched a little ACC basketball, and I'll tell you, I watched them play FSU, and FSU was absolute hot garbage this year, and FSU beat them, and I thought, okay. And then NC State wins a game in the NCAA or in the ACC tournament, and you're like, oh, good for them. And then they just kept on and on and on.
That was so sweet, and then...
And then you're on and on, and then, like, yeah, they won 9 games in a row now, and if they get to 11, that is the ultimate, you know, March Madness story that they have from the school who launched March Madness.
Yeah, there's a cool story. Great to see a guy like DJ Burns getting all this attention, his teammates as well, and another transfer portal guy, third school. That's becoming, I mean, I wonder how much on average that's going to be the case in like 10 years from now. But then again, what rules is everybody playing under at that point, or what does college sports even look like? But yeah, he's now far more well-known to America and can certainly become an even bigger name than he already is if they win a couple more games. But they've certainly added some Cinderella splash to a tournament that, I mean, really otherwise hadn't had a whole lot, right? I mean, there hasn't been a ton of...
It's not chalk, but you're right. Other than maybe Oakland early and whatever happened, I think, the night before, and then in NC State, it's been pretty much the
That was
dogs
the first weekend, really. And then, you know, and then really it's been NC State's been that story. So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun to see them. It's just weird how it plays out where... You know, you had the Pac-12 and the situation that they were in, and here was Oregon and Washington fighting for a playoff spot, and Washington gets to go and play for a national title. I know the ACC is not on its last breath just yet, although some people are already reading them their last rites, but it is just kind of funny to see NC State, like, making all this noise and just look back and go, and we're trying to break all this up like this. I don't know. It's wild given what the ACC is dealing with that they could end up with the basketball national champion and what should have been a team in the playoff and, so on and so forth. But, they're a great story.
It is a great story, and they're playing incredibly well. Duke kind of had the control of that game in tempo, and then NC State turned on the Jets and had a huge second half. Garrett Ross, thank you. Jack McKenzie, Emery Winter is dialing up 365 Sports tonight at 10:30 on the local CW. And also, please, if you don't mind, before you leave or whenever you join us, hit the like and the subscribe button for 365 Sports. Paul's back at it tomorrow at 1 with Triple Option. Craig, Paul, and I will be back at it tomorrow at 3 right here on 365 Sports. Enjoy the games. I'm David Smoak for Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak. Good night.